Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show. We're very excited to be back on your screens for episode 6, and I'm even more excited to be joined by my wonderful co-host, Jackie. I missed you last week when we were off air. What have you been up to in the past week? Oh, I think we might be having some microphone issues. Jackie's realised. Okay. Hopefully we'll get him back up very... Let's see. Fingers crossed. Technical difficulty. I wonder if he can hear me. Maybe I can just start commenting. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Right, I should be back. The stream should be able to hear me as well. Yeah. Sorry about that.
I was just going to start talking about your lovely haircut. I was going to start complimenting you. You managed to get a haircut. I'm very jealous.
I did. I popped out, managed to go down, get my hair cut for a bit, come back. It's a little bit cooler up there now. You can feel the wind a lot more.
I can imagine. I'm so jealous. I haven't had my hair cut in almost a year. Because obviously I didn't know the hairdressers were going to shut down. Normally get it cut twice a year because it's a bit expensive, you know, getting it dyed, getting it coloured.
Oh, yeah.
Girls' hair, so much more expensive than the guys' hair. I can't believe it. My partner goes and gets his hair cut like every month and it's like a tenner. I can't believe it. Anyway, very, very jealous of your new haircut, Jackie. Hopefully I'll be doing it very soon. What have you been up to in the past week? I know you've been doing a lot of Rainbow Six stuff.
Yeah, well, if my mic allows me to talk this time, basically, yeah, I've been doing the Rainbow Six stuff, still working our way through that with, of course, big man Tim, AceOfPyrite. It's actually been really fun. It's been enjoyable to get to grips with it and actually see the differences of the Brazilian scene as well, because they're so aggressive there. It's akin to like CS, right? Very explosive, all about the frags.
I was going to ask, actually, because it's a really good point about, you know, the different regions. And we saw it a lot when we did Red Bull Flick together as well. You know, seeing Counter-Strike and the differences you can see between the regions. Is it so much so in the Brazilian scene that you see those, as you were saying, kind of explosive plays kind of akin to Counter-Strike? And do you see kind of similarities between the regions in both different games?
Definitely. Like, you still see quick rounds. It's all about just basically playing for frags and playing explosive. Very different to like there's always different nuances that you'd expect from like EU, right, in Rainbow. So it is actually really cool to get to grips with because you get quicker rounds, you get wild runouts, all sorts of plays. It is like watching the old vintage Brazilian CS games again.
Absolutely love it. And you know what? You're perfectly leading into our topic of the week, which is, of course, analysts. Because we've been looking into a lot of different, you know, roles within esports. We've had casters, we've had content creators, we've had observers on in the past, and we've kind of missed out on the analysis element, haven't we? And it's such a broad subject within esports, right?
It is. There's so many different roles that go into it. And I think we've covered a good spectrum of it with today's show as well. We've got a wide variety of different people on that all do so many different jobs because it's hard to pin down. Like, when you're looking at, like, who would we bring on to talk about those sort of roles, right? You've got analysts, you've got color casters, you've got people very much behind the scenes that are integral to those sort of shows. We got a nice amount of them with us today. So it'll be cool to actually pick their brains and see all the different jobs and bits and bobs.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And as somebody, you know, who you've been in esports for quite a while now, have you seen kind of developments within the industry in terms of, you know, the amount of statistics that we can actually glean from a particular game? Does that kind of influence your job as a talent?
Oh, there's so much that can go into that, especially. That's also one of the really cool things why we'll get to speak to Esio later on tonight when he's on, because there's so many roles that are now opening up where obviously talent, if you've got more of that talent research, you've got more defined statistics to look at and statistics with context as well, right? It makes your life so much easier because then you can apply that in a way where everyone will know exactly what that means rather than just being a stat that pops up, kind of like what we used to have. Now there's more context to it. We're getting more statistics across the board because the API is getting a bit broader as well, especially like with CS. You think about the differences of back when we first started, really, with CSGO starting to blow up and get traction, to the level of detail tournament organizers can have now with the amount of stuff we can scalp from the API and bringing on people that know the ins and outs as well. It's crazy, the growth.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome to see. And I think we can also sort of allude that over to content as well. A
Hmm.
huge amount of content that's being produced that is so analytical. We've also got obviously Hawka later on the show,
Yeah.
and he's, of course, started off as a caster, moved on to that analyst role. But he's also been making loads and loads of really cool videos, which sort of delve into the depths of all the different teams we have, all the different play styles we have within Counter-Strike. There's a particular one that I really enjoyed, which is Astralis, and it was looking into one round on Vertigo, which may not have been particularly noticeable if you've just been watching it, in the Astralis era, really. But when you actually break it down and their utility usage, it's so cool. And I think it's awesome to see, especially, from the Counter-Strike side, that the game is sort of open enough for us to do that. And it's really awesome to be able to sort of gain all that information, especially, as you said, sort of put it onto a broadcast, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then you look at like the other aspects of that as well in terms of content. We've also got a perfect example of someone else that's going to be popping on with AceOfPyrite. Individually, he pumps out so many weekly videos rounding up what's going down the scenes. I've never seen anyone quite like him, Freya. When it comes to working alongside a color caster, the amount of stats he has, he must genuinely have like a yearbook just full of numbers. He's pulling out all sorts. It's magnificent.
That's amazing. I want to ask a bit more about Rainbow Six as well, because obviously within your role within LATAM, it's interesting to see you two, your sort of the staple talents of that particular scene
Mm.
right now, and you do a lot within your roles, right? You've got the commentary, you do interviews with players, but also you do the analysis sort of pre and post game, right?
Yeah, yeah, we cover everything. We also do weekly riddles. We get basically all of the ins and outs that you'd expect into a show like that. Yeah, but we do a lot on there. It is fun though. That's the difference because obviously it feels like a 6 hour show like that where it's just me and Tim in a 2 man environment, right? It's kind of a bit more old school. We're kicking it kind of how it used to be, where there was just you do everything, but it's really fun because it's given us an environment to just be ourselves and people seem to really enjoy it. We've also got some high quality siege, which obviously makes it way easier, right? Because when the games are good, time just whizzes by.
Yeah, yeah. What has that been like for you, sort of delving into Rainbow Six really head on, right? Sort of baptism
Mm.
by fire, right? Going into that sort of
I've been thrown
environment.
into the deep end.
Right, but you know
Yeah.
what? You flourished, Jackie, and we knew you would flourish. It's been awesome to see you. What is it kind of like, maybe compared to some of the games you've done previously, in terms of, sort of the scene, and in terms of maybe moving on to that sort of analysis role? What's it been like for you to develop in that?
I think the coolest bit about it is it's really the closest it's ever felt like in terms of working on like Counter-Strike, right? Because obviously coming from a CS background, you go into multiple different games and you cover stuff. And obviously I normally do desk hosting when it's a game that maybe I'm not as comfortable with in terms of getting to grips with and playing it, which is a little bit nicer because you can ease your way in, you can learn the scene, you can meet the pros, you can meet everyone else you're working with, and you'll gather that information. Whereas jumping into Siege, it felt like one of the first times I'd gone into a game again and just been like, the raw mechanics of this game, like that backbone that we've had for years from just everyday grinding CS. And then obviously you just learn what's new. You learn all the different factors that come on top. Whereas instead of utility, it's more the operator picks that provide that in terms of their kit, right? It's kind of what I always thought Valorant would head towards with the idea of fleshing out their spells as the utility. But that's more, I think, what they've hit on the head with Rainbow.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting actually, and it's interesting that you bring up as well. You've done a wide variety of roles, really,
Mm.
as a talent as well. Is there one, as you were kind of saying, you sort of move towards that sort of desk hosting role when you're not too familiar or as comfortable with a game? Is there one that you particularly enjoy doing, sort of across the board?
In terms of enjoyment, I think at this point, they're all kind of up there. They all hit around the same margin. CS has always got that special little place in my heart. It will never go away. CS events are just something special, right? You see your friends that you've known for so many years, the game that you kind of grew up on, it always hits you in the right place. CS events just hit different, but Rainbow's been kind of up there now. It's getting into the position where the amount of enjoyment, obviously getting to grips with meeting everyone in the scene as well, and just how nice they are, Freya. That's the one noticeable takeaway that you kind of find out is they've actually got a really friendly scene. It's,
Yeah.
it's quite similar to CS in the sense that they are welcoming. If you show you're going to put the effort in, they'll put the effort into you as well, which is actually a nice way to sort of go in and find yourself a welcome door.
Yeah, yeah, especially. And I mean, speaking of lovely people within the Rainbow Six scene, of course, we've got Jess joining us
We do,
later
yeah.
as well, a staple of EU and APAC. Well, pretty much every region, right? She sort of covers everything. She's been doing so much within the Rainbow Six sort of ecosystem. She's been an analyst for teams, she's been a coach, she's been playing. It's super interesting to see a person like that taking on so many different roles, because that's something we've seen sort of traditionally within Counter Strike, and it's cool to see that mapped onto Rainbow Six, right?
I was just double checking because I didn't want to. I didn't want to get it wrong either as well. But I believe she actually is a criminologist, Freya. So
She is.
not only is she sick with the stats when it comes to gaming, she knows her statistics.
Right? I was going to ask her about that. I'm very interested to hear how you get from criminology over to esports. Because I feel like two totally different
They just don't
areas.
meet. They're just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking of questions earlier. I was like, like what should we be talking about on the show? Like, I was going to ask, are there any links between criminology and esports? But I'm guessing none at all, really. So I'm really interested to
Yeah.
find out what her sort of history is and how she ended up getting into esports in the first place. I think it's really cool, actually. There's been a lot of guests that have come on the show. I'm just trying to think back that have had those sort of like, they're incredibly incredible within esports, but they always have these like really cool little things they do on the side, right? Like, I feel like esports has that sometimes. You have these people and then you learn more about them and it's like, oh my god, you do this really amazing thing alongside esports, putting all this time and effort in. I think it's really cool.
No, it is sick. I think it's also because obviously, like with esports, a lot of people, especially some of the older people that have come into it, you tend to fall into it without it being your first like job endeavor, right? Or it being something that you initially suspect is even going to turn into a job. It's just a game that you really enjoy or a scene that you like watching, and from there it just somehow stems into and eventually get offered like an admin gig that will lead into you finding out that in reality you really love stats. Then you somehow get an opportunity as a color caster. I think it's just because there's no path to it. It's just so back and forth and all over the shop, right? Where things just happen. If you're in the right time at the right place and you've got a passion for it, you just end up going from criminologist to statistician.
So funny. I love that. It's so cool. It's interesting though, because a lot of people, there's a sort of question at the moment is, do you need a degree to sort of get into esports? And I think it's a really interesting question because there's a lot of people, like myself, I have a degree not in esports, but in English. And it's really interesting to listen to people who have those sort of degrees and they've taken, it's not like you transfer anything from that degree over into esports, but it's cool that there is a space where you don't need a degree to thrive in it, and it really is just about that experience and about sort of gaining that knowledge within the industry. I really, really love that, and that's what I love so much about esports as well. But it's interesting to hear. I was actually speaking to a girl who takes part in one of the esports degrees. I'm trying to think what uni she was from. She interviewed me at ECI season 7 in London, and it was really cool. It was really, really
part of the degree.
Yeah. They did like placements and stuff, which I thought was really cool because my big skeptical thing about sort of esports degrees is like, well, like as you'll well know, Jackie, things change within esports like that. Like a year in esports is like it goes by so fast, and there's so many developments. So when I was speaking to her about it, it was actually really cool to hear that she's sort of being taken and put into actual events so she can actually experience what it's like. And I think she had a behind the scenes pass to go and have a look around the back ends of the wonderful production suites that we have. And it was actually really cool. I ended up asking her a lot of questions as well after the interview. I was like, so what do you actually do? Like, what are your modules like? Because weirdly, I actually did an essay in my English about esports, which was really weird. Like, it was a very strange kind of crossover, just sort of talking about viewership and that sort of stuff. But it's cool to see the universities are catching up to it, because I mentioned Twitch to, I was saying about this idea for an essay. I mentioned Twitch to one of my lecturers, and she was like, what is that? Like, tell me more. like some people just have absolutely no clue, and you kind of forget it, right? Because esports, as much as it's a huge thing to us, actually it's still growing. It's still becoming mainstream, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like every time you get in a cab or like an Uber at an event, right? And the guy just be like, oh, what are you here for? What are you up to? And you're like, oh, esports tournament. It's like ESL1 Birmingham or something. And he just look at you and go, video games? What are you on about? Like, it's crazy because also you've noticed the change of that now, where it's actually becoming more people just going, oh, my son does that. And then immediately like, what do you do? And you open up that doorway of this 40-minute Uber ride's now just me telling him everything about esports that he's going to forget the second you leave.
Right. Yeah. And it's always, if they do know what esports is, it's always, oh, so do you play Fortnite? It's like, you know what? Yeah, I do.
Honestly, that's like the benchmark for the turnings of the times, where before it used to be like, oh, what do you do? And you go Counter-Strike, and they go, is that Call of Duty? Now is that Fortnite? Like, that's where the change is coming.
That is amazing. I think my favorite weird sort of story in a when I've been going to an event. Actually, it was coming back from a skydive, which I did for PUBG. Really weird. It's a very esports thing, isn't it? We were filming
like a
piece of
promo
content.
and they just threw you out the plane?
Exactly that. That is exactly what it was.
That's
I
brilliant.
walked into the office one day, and the previous head of marketing came up to me and was like, Freya, how do you feel about skydiving next week in Spain? I was like,
and naturally, you just went, "Where we dropping, boys?"
Yeah, exactly. But I shat myself. I'm not gonna lie. I absolutely shat myself. It was terrifying. But I was really jet lagged because I'd just come from doing an Apex Legends event in the Faces Studio in Santa Monica, and it was literally like you fly straight to Barcelona and then you go skydiving, and that's it. So I think that's the only reason that I actually did it, was because I was just so out of it. I was just like, tired. You know what? Yeah, I just want to go to bed. Just throw me out of this plane.
At least I can sleep in the air.
Exactly. The most terrifying thing I've ever done. But I definitely recommend it to anybody who likes adrenaline rush kind of things. I'm not a massive fan of roller coasters, so I should have put 2 and 2. No, absolutely hate roller coasters. I'm not a Nemesis Inferno kind of girl. I'd go with my friends to Thorpe Park. Love a bit of watching them screaming on roller coasters, but not my kind of thing, unfortunately.
I ended up going to Spain on holiday. I've been away with Esio quite a few times, right? We go on these cute little holidays where we go away together and we end up going to different theme parks in different countries. One of them, we went to Spain and we went to Portaventura. And on one of the rides, I was sat on the exit row, Esio's in the middle. And we're going around the loop. And obviously this wasp, I think it was a wasp or like a bee, has got stuck down the back of his shirt. And because of obviously the panic of going round a loop on a roller coaster, this wasp's like, what's going on? Like, he's terrified, obviously. Esio's there just trying to shake the back of the shirt to get him out. He's just dug in. We've got back to like the end of the station. We've docked. I've turned around and looked at him. He's there just going, ah. I was like, what's happened? He's just gone, I've got stung by a bee. It's done me on the loop. We got him off. I've had a look. I'm just there. I was trying to tweeze out. It was the whole like stinger was just fully in him. He had been fully taken out. He had been skenged, Freya. He had been skenged on the coaster.
Get wrecked by a wasp. That's awful. Oh my God. If I didn't want to go on roller coasters any less right now, no way. No
That's
more.
It. That's sold it for you. Wasps and roller coasters.
Right. Okay, theme parks must be great, but when I think of Spain, water parks. Love a water park in Spain.
There is a water park right next to it, but it was shut. I think we were there when it wasn't quite hot enough yet. It was on the way. It was on the rise up.
Gutted. I love a good water park. Anyway, as I was saying, the weird taxi story. He's sort of speaking to me like, you know, why have you just been at an airfield? Why have you just jumped out of a plane? So it was a brief sort of very much like I haven't slept in the past 42 hours, trying to explain this idea for a video concept. And then it was sort of getting into video games. And he was like, oh yeah, my son really likes this game. But then he got really fixated on the idea, and I don't know why, that I knew when the PlayStation 5 was going to be released. And this was a year and a half ago. So he was asking me, he was like, you know, like he was actually like, I'll give you my number. Please tell me when you know when the PlayStation 5 is going to be released. And I was just like, it's not the same thing, mate. It's really not the same thing. But poor geezer, he was on the grind. He really wanted to know when his beloved PS5 was coming out.
Man. Did you give him a text last week? Did you let him know?
I should have, man. He might not have been watching the stream.
He could have missed it. He won't know what's coming out. He won't know about the new Ratchet and Clank. He's going to be lost.
Speaking of which, have you been watching any of the Xbox show or anything like that?
I did. I saw the reveal for big Halo Infinite and everything else that's coming out. New Halo. I've already said that. New Fable is what I meant to say. That'd be pretty lit.
Yeah. I mean, I've only ever played, I can't even remember which Fable it was. It was so long ago. But that would be cool. I'd quite like to get back into that.
Fable is really good. Cool. It's also, Fable is the funniest game. If you haven't ever seen any of like the interviews that Peter Molyneux used to do on the build up, it's like Peter Molyneux he's a really bright spark and a really good mind, like in the gaming industry. But he needed like a PR team to just stop him from just saying, we're going to do this. So essentially for the first Fable, I think he came out and was like, we're going to have individually rendered trees. We're going to have individually rendered blades of grass. They're all going to move individually. They'll have their own, personality in the way they'll operate. It was all this ridiculous stuff where he'd hype it up and you get caught in a loop of people just going, so, will you be able to stroke the dogs in Fable 1? You'd be like, you'd be able to have multiple dogs. They can have puppies, all sorts. You can adopt the dogs. And you're like, wow, this sounds like the best game ever. And then obviously it comes out and there's like 100 things that just aren't in the game that he's gone, it'll be there. Apparently he kept getting a Lionhead in trouble. Like at every press event, they'd have to be like, Peter, please don't tell them we're going to put things in the game that won't be there.
Poor guy, just getting too excited about it.
Yeah.
I love it though. Something I'm excited for, not really a game. Well, obviously not a game. The Herman Miller and Logitech chair.
Oh
That looks
yeah.
sick. Really cool.
Have you seen that Blue? Do you remember Blue? He used to do the CS
Yes.
casting,
Yeah,
does
yeah,
Rainbow
yeah.
Six
Just Rainbow
now?
Six. Yeah.
Yeah, he bought one.
Did he? Has he
Yeah.
got it yet?
I don't think so. I don't think he has. I saw Stokes tweet out and say that he'd done it, and Blue was very upset that it had become public about his chair. But now we know. I don't think he's received it yet. It doesn't look like it, but I know he's bought one. So I guess they're on like pre-orders right now.
Yeah. I think DDK might have one as well because I saw a little Instagram post of him sitting in it, testing it out. I'm very much I bought a second-hand Herman Miller
Ooh.
2 years ago for 150 quid. I couldn't believe my luck. This guy goes around, you know, like storage hunters where they buy the
Yeah.
bins. So he goes around and he does that, but with disused office buildings. So these offices have gone
Oh.
under. And they're, you know, completely done. Don't even bother to clear out their stuff. And then you can go and purchase them. You can just go and bid on them. You can't see inside them beforehand. So you could either get a completely empty office or you could get 200 Herman Miller chairs, which are almost
Ooh.
completely brand new. And this guy clearly had no idea how much they were worth. And he put it up on Gumtree and I was just like, 150 quid, are you having a laugh? So I went over and had a look at it. And his house, it was like, you know, like a little terrace house, a normal house, filled to the brim with
So
Herman Miller
nice.
chairs. Yeah, so I was like, I'll take 12, please. Best investment of my life, though. 100% would recommend. So it's cool to see them expanding out into gaming as well, because obviously Complexity have got the facility in Dallas, right?
Yeah, and that place is crazy as well. Like the
Yeah.
pictures from that look absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it goes to show though, right? Complexity, they've always been very forward thinking when it comes to that sort of stuff. Jason Lake is a hell of a guy when it comes to esports, so it doesn't surprise me. You know they're going to be loaded to the brim with the Logitech branded chairs as soon as they come out. You never want to get up. You never want to leave.
We actually, me and James visited the Complexity Gaming Centre when we did ECS season 8, last season, the final season of ECS. When it was in Arlington. It was literally just down the road. I think it's called, I can't remember. It's like the $1 Million Square Mile or something is where they are. So it's like the fanciest place. It's like basically nothing, like almost desert. And then you get to this huge place where it's a Dallas Cowboys stadium and these amazing buildings. And then on the horizon, you see this massive Complexity logo on the outside of a building. And it's so sick. They literally had everything in there. You walk in and there's like a merch stand, like you're able to just pick what you want. It was awesome. And then they also had, obviously the Herman Miller facility, which we had a look at. But they had a load of sort of physiotherapy stuff as well. It was really some really interesting, quite groundbreaking stuff. James had a go at the massager chair with, it was almost like, when they take your blood pressure, those sort of things.
Yeah,
but it was like
a
full
one with the
body
legs.
suit.
Yes.
It was so cool. I couldn't believe it. And then you go around the corner and they've got what is it? Is it Miller, the beer? I think it's Miller Lite, and they've just got a stand of Miller Lite and like all the snacks you could dream of. I'm just like, yeah, can I work here? Can we move over and share an office with you, please? That'd be awesome.
That's so sick. I'd seen the picture of like the leg compressors. That looked dope. That seemed really cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. James was in his element as well. Absolutely loving life.
Just running around like a kid in a candy store, just playing with everything. That would have been sick. Oh, man.
Okay, so we've had a few technical issues getting Cody Dragon on, unfortunately. He won't be joining us as a first guest, but we still have some more guests for you. Of course, we've got Esio joining us, Jacky. Your wonderful friend. Do you want to give a little intro to him?
Esio Trot, the tick master himself. He knows everything there is to know about Counter-Strike, Freya. I wouldn't be disappointed. You can put him on the spot and he'll give you something tasty.
It's going to be very, very exciting indeed. So let's go ahead and let's get Esio on the show.
That could have been amazing.
Oh my god.
Thank you so much for joining us, Esio. It's a massive pleasure to have you on the show. What have you been up to recently?
Recently, it's just been playing a bit of Face, actually, and a bit of Satisfactory, which Jack will be wishing I'd play it with him some more. But otherwise...
Is Ben muted, or is that just me?
Is that for me?
Oh, he's coming through in vMix. Yeah, so if you go into vMix,
there we
you should
go.
be able to hear him.
My bad.
There you go. Yeah, just a bit of Satisfactory, bit of Face it here and there. Not been too much, really, just been casually playing, really.
Yeah, because obviously we've got the player break at the moment within CS. It's a bit of a weird time, isn't it? What have you sort of just been playing and filling that time with that?
Yeah, it's been mostly just playing, relaxing a bit, because I had a stint of like 6 weeks where it was basically just constant work, whether it was stats work with Blast, or CG edit stuff with the SL, or casting with Jack, even, with some of the Blast CIS Cup and RTP Arena Cup.
Yeah, there was there was a lot of grind for a while there. You had like a couple of days off throughout the course of basically all of the road to Rio. You did everything stacks wise, didn't you, with the CG edit stuff?
Yeah, it was a full, I think it was April 20th, 3rd, I think, and then all the way through to May 17th. And then 4 days later, I was doing the casting with you for 9 days straight. And then 2 days after that finished, it was then Blast 2 weeks fully as well. So it was a whole thing back and forth right there. But yeah,
some fantastic stuff. Yeah, it's really cool to see you. I'm sort of actually not too familiar with how you kind of started off in esports. Where was it? Because obviously you've done a huge amount of stuff. You know, you've done casting, you've done the stat stuff, as you mentioned. Where did it kind of all begin for you?
So it's kind of a long story, really, because technically speaking, I started playing like properly with competitive esports and everything in 2005, which I was only 9 years old at that point. So it's not exactly like a typical road, but it was basically just in CSS playing through like on CAD Red and everything. Everybody loves a bit of CAD Red, but ultimately it was just getting to grips on there. And then towards 2010, that sort of area, I started getting a lot more involved trying to go to events and everything. But I didn't get to my first event until 2013, and even then that was for League. So it was kind of a weird one where I got through playing CSS at a high level and then went to League instead, where I'd say high level, but at the same time it wasn't like proven. I was like Diamond 1, high, like 90 LP something. So it was like, could have been on a team that was good, but I never really tried to properly. But ultimately then we went back to CSGO. This was with Imi and Mighty Max. Mighty Max still on endpoint. Imi, he's coached many teams as well. We went CSS to League to CSGO. So it was a full transition period for all three of us. We've all had the same experience essentially through those 3 games. But then I played CSGO for 3.5 years at high level, with Choke Gaming, FM. We had a stint on Endpoint, which is probably the most notable one, really. That was just under a year, whereas technically being paid to play and everything, so that was like the dream scenario, right? But then I kind of was picking up these casting gigs, analyst gigs along the way, thanks to a lot of help from Jack, obviously, because he was already doing that the whole time anyway. It was just a case of, if we're not making it to the finals, which we weren't quite often, he'd be like, "Oh, do you want to cast it, or do you want to be on the desk?" I'm like,
"Do you want to come and work with
me?" I might as well, yeah. I know the teams quite well. I might as well do this, just so I do something with my time. But then, because after departing Endpoint...
It links in as well, though, right? Because obviously that time was like back in 2016, when at the time you had gone from at least contending to like come top 3 at most events in the UK. The team was doing well. You had the tripod, which was you, Imi, and Max, and you were just unstoppable effectively. Then I kind of poached him and stole him, and obviously we did Elite Series together, which was your first full-time gig where you were an analyst.
Yeah, because it was the first time I did any casting, technically speaking, was that Epic LAN, when we just kind of all go around a table and we were just talking, really. And then 2 months later, I think it was, we did... Yeah, of course. That's how it has to be, right? But we then did the ESL Prem promotions, I think it was, for that 2 days in Leicester and everything. This is back when we were sharing a hotel room and everything as well. It was, the darker days, I suppose, compared to what people get given now.
It was our first date, basically, Freya.
Yeah.
First date before many holidays, I've heard.
Oh yeah, we've had quite a few. But it was basically just a whole process of doing a bit of casting analyst stuff on the side while still playing as well. But then after I departed Endpoint, it was kind of I wasn't really enjoying it as much, like in terms of the actual playing. I was still enjoying the competitive side of it. It's always good to compete, right? Winning, losing, you still like the effort to get to that point. But when you kind of have to play 12 to 14 hours a day, and then you don't really meet your expectations, it's a hell of a drop off in terms of like your morale or like anything like that. So you kind of just feel like it's not really worth it. So I ended up moving more towards casting analyst work primarily, and then I started going into stats, which I was like, this is actually pretty cool. It was one of the times towards the end of 2017, I think it was, I watched The Big Short, which is a film about the bank crisis, right?
Love that film.
Great
film.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic film. But I was like, okay, what about looking into the details of games, like making a small thing work out bigger in a game like CS? And I thought, okay, what about nades, right? We could make nades more efficient, make them get the best possible, know exactly where to throw them. Coincidentally, then 6 months later, Astralis revolutionized everything and had their incredible utility damage per round. I was like, okay, I was a bit slow on this one. I didn't really push my own narrative. But it proved what I thought was correct. So I was like, okay, maybe if I go further down this line, I can find more stuff like that. And I've kind of got to where I am now, where I worked a bit of CG editorial is the role that I do for ESL quite a lot, which is controlling the ticker, for example, like David or Dex, as some people know him, or Text Guy, of course. So he does it quite a lot with interacting with the community through it. But I've always been more of a stats guy, so I usually try and fill it with numbers. But there needs to be context, right? There has to be. You can't just put a stat down and then be like, that's it, because it doesn't really make sense to the average person. So I've been kind of trying to spread along that way. And speaking of as well, I'll be doing that for Cologne in 3 weeks' time as well. So it's another situation where we'll be trying to expand onto that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's actually a really cool point. And it's something that I've discussed with so many people in terms of production about, like, you can give somebody a stat, but to actually make that digestible and actually make it mean anything, that's a whole nother beast in itself, right? And it's about that sort of storytelling element, right? I feel like that's what you were kind of alluding to, of actually these numbers and these statistics really help push a narrative throughout the whole broadcast.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the side thing, right? So that CG editorial, for example, the main thing behind it is you control the ticker, and then you're meant to push stats in game, like lower thirds, right? And that's all well and good, but I was adding an extra element to it where I was sending live sentences to the casters directly, rather than just the in-game ones. So if I notice something in game and they haven't noticed it, like where they're running a set strategy, I'll be like, okay, that's actually the execute that this team do on this map. And then they'll be able to note it down and be like, okay, they've just done that, which is a nice little thing. Just like small anecdotes, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually really. I wanted to ask you about that. We were sort of Jack and I were talking about this before this episode. What is it like logistically wise when you're giving those stats to the casters, or is it just casters? Is it the analysts on the desk as well? Like, what's your kind of relationship with them like when you're giving them that information?
So it's kind of varied, really. So ESL have their own system, which they've actually made themselves, where there's a separate page, it's like a dashboard, and it has all of the game feed, that has the player KDAs, average ADL, like all that stuff is on there. And then I have separate boxes which I fill in myself. And it basically works as kind of like the HLTV scoreboard, but I've done it manually myself. And then I have a separate line which I can do automatically. But otherwise, I've sometimes gone for a bit of a ghetto approach where it's like just a WhatsApp group, and I just keep spamming it with lines, which it does the job. It does the job. It's just, it would be nicer to have a whole screen dedicated to it, though. But a lot of the time, they're always very happy to have it. It's always a huge helping hand. Like, I remember before season 8 of Pro League, back in 2018, I remember giving about, was it A5 is like the smaller piece of paper, right? I gave Henry about 12 pages leading up to just the final of just storylines and then stats as well. And I remember like they did an interview in the crowd, because that was the classic thing with the Odense crowd behind them. And the first 3 things he said were 3 of the lines I'd written word for word.
That's amazing.
He's using them.
We did it, boys.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah,
that's really
it's a hell of a
cool.
feeling.
Yeah, especially when they're, because it's one thing to see that as yourself and go, oh, that's really interesting, but it's a whole other thing to actually have them utilized on a broadcast as well. That's really awesome. In terms of like how it actually got to that point as well, was it something that you kind of noticed was really absent from broadcasts, and then you were kind of just pushing people to go, hey, this is something we actually need?
So I come from a bit of a background where I'm a huge football fan, and then in the past 5-6 years, I've always then gone into basketball as well, where obviously in American sports, stats are heavily utilized. They're like way over the top with it. But then it's kind of looking at esports, like, well, all this stuff is already there. We just have to pull it and filter it in the correct way. So it's like, why do we not have this sort of thing? I was like, okay, well, I've got the contextual knowledge behind it, so I can give this stat and then be like, this is why it's important, and then they can say it themselves if they need to. Or I can just try and figure out a way to do it like automatically as well. So I'm trying to make a system myself which pulls these numbers and will then give me the automated stats, so I don't have to do the manual, which would save a lot of time. I'm fine with doing it at the moment, but I think it's just a case of we could have so much more on our broadcasts as it is in esports, like across not just CS but every other game too. it just could be so much better.
Yeah,
it does
really
feel
cool.
like we're still kind of scratching the surface, right, of a lot of that stuff, which is cool. Why now you're actually getting the grounds to, I'd say, develop that further. Obviously, you've been getting more stuff. You said as well, you've just been hired for Cologne. Is that with the same sort of stuff? Are you doing editorial CG for that as well?
Yeah, so that'll be CG editorial, the exact same as I did for Road to Rio. So the same situation where I'll be able to give the workflow of the stats on the ticker, giving them stats during the game, and then also, as a side note, I usually give the talent a whole preparation sheet of all the teams and all the stats across every map, just as like a extra thing if they want to reference it. It's there. But
Yes,
it's very basic for me to do. Yeah, you've had one before as well. The classic.
I've been supplied one of those. Yeah, back at
the minors, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it the European minor and the Asian minor for E-League back in 2016, something like that?
2017.
Oh, cool.
It was when Elite Series was on, wasn't it? So I'd worked that Elite Series weekend and then handed you both of you like the sheets full. Like it was an easy page and a half, 2 pages
folder.
Yeah, because it's all like things you don't really. All teams you don't really watch much, right? Is the other thing. So it's like, okay, this is perfect. It just gives you an example. Okay, we don't actually have to do as much reason. We've got this coming to us as well, so we can just do the best show possible.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point in terms of the minors as well. I remember when I did the Face It minors, like, 2 years ago now? And it really was, like, I was just studying HLTV, like, probably for, like, 2 weeks straight beforehand, trying to watch as many games as you can of these teams. And even back then, obviously, a lot of those games, pre-minors, just weren't broadcasted at all. So it's really, really hard to kind of find that context for some of the teams as well. And I did quite like that, obviously, when you're interviewing them, you can learn a lot about them, especially some of the teams that have never been an event of that, or even on LAN at all, really. I think it's really, really interesting. But I can imagine having those stats really helps you put into context some of the teams, especially like, when you're casting them.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the things that I noticed. So esports in general, especially with CS, our calendar is always so filled, especially for the top tier talent. They have to work an event like every week, right? And it's a case of they don't get the time to actually do the research that they probably need, like to give the best show possible. So I was trying to think, okay, how do I help that situation, make a role within it myself? Because this is something TOs should value, because the talent will then be able to give the best show possible. So I was like, okay, why don't I just make up this talent research role and then try and see if that is a thing, right? And it's worked as an opportunity to just go direct to casters. Obviously, I know Jack quite well, so I was able to be like, okay, I can do this for you guys ahead of the event. And obviously it did help because, as you said, it's very hard to research teams who don't have many games played, or you have to go through an entire demo. And as we all know, the demo in CS is pretty awful to go through. But it's just like a really small thing in the grand scheme of things. It's very small, and it'll make the show so much better.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we've been speaking a lot about research, and I hope you've done your homework coming into this show, Esio, because Jacky's going to take over with a little bit of a quiz, aren't you?
I am. I do have a little something quizzical prepared for you. It's 10 questions, Benjamin, and hopefully, I feel like you should be on track to get at least a good majority of them. There's a couple of spicy ones thrown into the mix, but I feel like you are equipped for this based with your knowledge of Counter-Strike. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, do you have the grades down? Do you have a pass rating set or anything? Is there an A star?
Let's say 80%. I feel like if you get over 80%, that's fair. Yeah, S plus minimum, or else you're out. You don't get 10 out of 10.
Okay.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Here we go. First question. What was the full lineup of the 2013 British Nexus esports roster?
So you're what? Rattlesnake MX. Let's see. I'm trying to PT. I'm trying to think because they did have 2 foreign players, but I'm not sure if they did at the start of that. So you go release, and then see, my mind wants to say Husey because he was in the 2012 CSS lineup, but I don't think he made the switch to CS:GO. I'm not actually sure. I'll throw in PRB.
All right. You're close. You are very close there with the way you've gone in. I'll give you a final opportunity to lock it in, Ben. Bear in mind, it is the British Nexus roster.
It's 4-5. Okay, so I guess that has to be Husey then, because I don't think Wilsey made the switch, and then I don't think Weber was in that lineup either. He was on FM still. And I don't think Huds was on that lineup. He came back with easy skins. So I'm going to actually say Husey then.
So what's your full 5?
Rattlesnake, MX, Release, PT, Husey. Yeah.
He's one away. He was so close. I love the
So
thought process. I could see the
close.
determination. Huds was in the roster. It was Huds instead of
Oh,
Pete.
was Huds actually in it? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought PT was in it. Because he was in the 2012 lineup, so I was trying to think who made the full switch, right?
It was close.
That's an annoying
It was
one.
close.
Yeah. I'll blame the fact I was playing
Well, that
League.
was the source history. There you go. It was in the downtime. It was the interim when you moved away.
Yeah.
But I do have a second question for you, Ben. This one, a little bit more CSGO centric in the sense of it's more recent. Who is currently the highest earning CSGO player of all time?
It's Zipnix, isn't it?
It is. That was quick.
Yeah, yeah, because he's like $20,000 ahead of second, if I remember correctly. It's a small value, but it's well, I say small. It's a 5-digit amount there.
I think it's him and then Dupree, literally right behind.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's the rest of the Astralis guys right behind him.
They're all up there. They're all up there. They're just slightly further ahead. But well done. That's good. So far, you're 1 out of 2. It's not awful in terms of 10 questions. You can still aim for the 80% mark, Ben.
Yes, I still need to pass.
Right. We'll stay with the money-based questions for this one in terms of esports earnings. Who is the highest earning English Counter-Strike player of all time?
Ooh.
I want to just say Smooya. Just because recent earnings, but it depends if that counts. Actually, because technically you'd see the Smooya, and then we've got Alex as well, who comes flying in because of the Vitality earnings, which is probably where it goes away. And I don't think anybody else really challenges it, so I'm going to go with Alex.
You're right. You are correct.
Yeah.
It is Alex. Well done.
That last minute switch.
Yeah.
That was a big brain.
Yeah,
Big brain.
It's between those two.
See
It
the
has to be
gears
one of them.
turning.
Has to be one of them.
Well done. All right, here's something a little bit more where you're going to have to dig back into the wrinkles, Benjamin. This one's way back, right? I'm talking 09. What team placed third at the Counter-Strike Source Tournament Tex 09?
Vitriolic.
Yes, well done, Ben. He's straight in there. He knows. He knows it was Vitrolic.
Fifth Lauren, Hellblinder, what is it? Giftig, Mike, and who's the fifth? Who am I missing?
Oh, God. Who was
Hellblinder,
it?
Fifth
Who was
Lauren,
on that
Giftig,
roster?
Mike.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
I can't remember who it
one
was.
person missing, isn't there?
You're missing out
Yeah.
on one, but you have got the team, and that's
Yeah,
all that matters on
I
this
know
one.
the team. Yeah, I did watch it like last month. The video.
Of course, as we all do regularly, start of the week. Get Tex 09 on, watch it back. Right, well, the next one's something a little bit spicy. Well, do you believe we have a picture prepared for this one? We need producer Simon to pop it up. And the question will be, Benjamin, what map is this? And then you have to base your decision off of course, the picture of the map when it comes up. If that's been prepared, producer Simon. All pressure on you. I've thrown you in the bus immediately. Oh, he's getting it ready. He's getting it ready backstage, Benjamin.
This reminds
on
me
its
of the
way.
games
Think
they
about
played
all your map
during
knowledge.
Rio.
Bring it to the front of
They
your
used to do
brain.
this during Rio with Rush. He used to go on like a random area of the map. The castles close their eyes and they trying to guess where he is. So,
here we go.
Oh, it's Tuscan underground.
It is Tuscan immediately. Well done. He's done it.
Yeah, there's normally a little wood piece there above the ladder. They have to destroy. Yeah,
Yeah, you have to
straight
break
on
that
that
to
one.
climb your way up. Yeah, there you go. Well
Yeah.
done. Well done. Tuscan was correct. The map we sorely miss in Global Offensive.
Yes.
But of course, rest in peace there in Source. All right. Keeping it on the line of CSGO then, Benjamin. What teams, and I say teams, placed third, fourth at ESL 1 Cologne 2014?
2014.
Mm.
So that's the year that was actually that wasn't the NIP win, was it? Or was it 2014's the NIP?
It was not.
Yeah, so that means Fnatic probably won in that case. Sometimes I think because that was a major and everything as well. So I'm thinking we had a really questionable team get to the semi-finals, as we usually do in a Cologne. There's always usually a little story behind one of the teams that gets there.
Yeah, one little spicy affair.
I think I'm correct in thinking that's the land where Epsilon had Shox and FXio, and FXio stabbed a player in the back on Cobble, and Shox got really annoyed. I think that did happen at that
Very
one.
possibly. That does ring a bell. That does ring a bell.
Because I think that Clayton never got out of the group stage, so they're not included in this one. They're 13th, 16th. Epsilon, I think, were 9th, 12th based on that. I want to say it's a French team, but I don't think LDLC would have got there. unless they got to the final only, because I don't think they ever got held out at the semis. I'm going to go with NIP being third, fourth, because that would make sense. Actually, no. NIP second. I'm going to LDLC third, fourth, and then Na'Vi as the other one.
So LDLC and Na'Vi is third, fourth. Are we locking that in? Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, I'm thinking those two.
It was Dig. It was Dignitas LGB.
LGB, there you go. That's the team that can swing in.
That was the cheeky squad that made it in. Almost, Benjamin.
I knew there's always one team that gets to a Cologne deep run, and then they're not meant to be there. There's always one.
Oh man, it's not going too well, Freya. He's got 2 wrong already. I don't know if it's recoverable at this point. I feel like you're leaving yourself high and dry.
Got to get all the remaining ones right. I'm sorry, extra pressure.
As long as you can get these down. The next one I feel like you should have a good inkling towards. The former UK Easy Skins roster won only 2 events underneath the organisation. Can you name those events and the teams they beat?
Ooh.
So you have to name myself in this one. I-55, Pentland, they beat Choke Gaming. 3-0, they had 1 map advantage. It was comfortable wins on Inferno and Overpass. That was good. Really great final. Don't check my stats. And then they won the Gfinity Cup against Infuse 3-2. And we didn't get the prize money for it because Vince took it.
You did. You got robbed by your organisation. The old days of esports. It was the Wild West.
Yes, yeah. Those are the 2 they won. So it was August 26th or something, and then November 23rd, 2015.
You've done well. You've done well. All right, that was a good return to form. And we've got 3 questions left at this point. Going into this next one, Ben, this is the one that could catch you off guard. This is a bit of an interesting one. Who is the oldest skin maker to ever release a skin into Global Offensive?
Oldest skin maker?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a bit of a weird one.
Oh, this is an interesting one.
So is this literally the actual person who designed the skin? Or is it literally like...
Yeah, the name of the person that designed the skin.
This is savage, Jacky. Absolutely savage.
I mean, I don't think I know any people who made the skins, other than the fact that like Anders was part of like one of the backing of one of them. I'll put Anders for that reason. I don't actually know.
Unfortunately, Anders is incorrect. It's actually Sid Mead, Benjamin. Age 83 with the org Sid Mead.
83.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Big man Sid Mead. There's a little factoid being dropped on you. All right. Well, you've got 2 questions left to go, Benjamin. Question 9. Who initially developed CSGO?
So this is the... crap, I know what their name is. It was a small group of devs. I'm trying to remember what their name is, because they were known as... It's going to annoy me. I know it's just a 2-word answer, I'm pretty sure. Or like 2 name and then team or something like that. For some reason, my mind keeps thinking hidden source, but it's not. But that's just what keeps coming to mind. It's just going to annoy me. I don't think I'll get the answer. Ben. Yeah, I think I'll get the answer.
No, all right. It was Hidden Path. Hidden Path. The initial developers.
That's why Hidden Source came to mind.
Yeah. Close, but no cigar.
Damn it.
Oh, Ben. Unfortunate stuff. And of course, one final question. How many types of knives have been added to the game since cases were added? Not including finishes. Quick fire on this one, Ben. Last opportunity.
I'm going to go with 11. Just as a sporadic guess.
He's 1 away. It was 10.
Oh, as if they got a rounded number after all the knives they've added. Wow.
He's not done well.
Savage. I can't believe it. The level of questions up here. You know what? I was impressed though. I was very impressed with some of that knowledge, especially putting yourselves under the bus with your own loss in there. Cheeky question there, Jacky. Very nice. Speaking of which, I want to just before we get our third guest onto the show, I just wanted to ask a little bit about the UK CS scene in general and just how you've kind of seen it transform over the years of you playing and then obviously moving on to sort of the stats role and the casting role. how have you kind of seen it change? And do you feel like there's any particular things that the UK scene kind of needs to do to sort of reach those heights?
In a weird way, from when I was playing, so the first year after I was playing, the UK had so many opportunities. So we had the Elite Series come through, which loads of funding, like in terms of like prize money, teams were getting given salaries, base, everything, and that didn't really do anything. Like the teams didn't, I want to say take advantage of it, but technically that's the way it would go. Like they didn't really take advantage of what they were given at the time, because they also had the UK Premiership around, they also had UK Masters. There was a lot of opportunities for teams to get prize money in a major way. And then after that, I think the UK scene has actually just fallen completely. Right? People will say otherwise from an outside perspective, rather, just because Endpoint are doing well right now. But other than Endpoint, there is nobody left. It's just players dotting around everywhere. And then obviously Valorant has stole a lot of players from the UK side of things. So it's kind of awkward. I think the UK scene is in the worst spot it's been since about 2014, 2013, in terms of depth, at least. Obviously, it's peaking, but only for one team.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because obviously at the Face It Major we saw it was both Def and Smooth making it onto the to the Champions stage, but obviously on separate teams. Not with any UK players around them. It's kind of interesting that we haven't really seen that. Minus Endpoint, we haven't really seen that from a region where there was actually there has been quite a lot of players historically.
Yeah, it's a bit of an awkward one. I mean, the classic thing for everybody in the UK is that we have the skill. It's just that there's always been something else holding us back, whether it's personality clashes or just the culture difference as well as another thing. Like in the UK, it's still not quite... Yeah, people will say it's not worth putting in the hours for it, which, I mean, technically speaking, it's not. But unless you do get that big payoff. And then if you look at how teams in the UK would classically just change roster every 3 months, it really doesn't surprise you why there's no contracts being given, because it's like, well, you guys will not like each other after 3 months, so why should we bother paying you for 3 months and then you change everything? Like, it's a very bizarre situation, really, in the scene. It's kind of disappointing, really.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky to work around, but it is cool, on the other hand, obviously, to see Endpoint kind of succeeding recently. But that brings us to the point where I think it's time to introduce our third guest onto the show, and it's, of course, Jess Bolden.
How and why did you start playing Rainbow Six?
I was a Call of Duty ranked star, and then I needed a game with more tacticalness to it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I would have said something if no one else had said anything. Ladies and gentlemen, we went to the gym for 45 minutes, and this is the first time that Alex had ever lifted weights before, and now he is so under the weather, he was in bed all night, so not going to be able to get in. Bosco is still in 90 hallway with less than 10 seconds left. The wall that he opened, repelling on 90, also nets him his own death, so...
Good night. It's a full schedule.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see you guys doing all that Rainbow Six goodness. How has it been for you this season?
It's been long days, as you can imagine. Siege is one of those games that sort of, especially if you go overtime for APAC North, it goes on and on and on. But I think that's probably the beauty of it, is that we have so much Siege now. A lot of people ask if the Rainbow Six channel's ever even offline, so I love that.
Yeah, I think that was one point where it was almost 24/7 Rainbow Six coverage, which is awesome, by the way. I absolutely love that. And for you as well, obviously, due to obviously coronavirus, unfortunately, everything sort of moved online. But you're still in Australia, so you've literally moved onto an EU time schedule, right?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's winter here as well. So I actually haven't seen the sun for the first time, except for 2 days ago. I went out in the sun. I woke up early and I went, hey, the sun exists. Went out and, it's all good for that now. But yeah, it's rough when you live in the darkness for most of your life, yeah.
But dedication, and that's what we love within esports. You've been super dedicated to the cause. And something, before we get into the analysis element of the show, me and Jackie were talking about it before we went live. You're a criminologist as well, right? What happened for you to sort of go from that criminology background and then come into esports? Because I can't imagine it cross paths very often.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky story, and when I explain it to people, they sort of go, "Huh? How does that link kind of make it?" Before I was in esports, I was playing like part-time competitive Siege anyway. Like I would spend most of my day, like I was teaching at a university, and I ran my own tuition business as well, teaching criminology, sociology, psychology, and stuff like that to high school students. And when I wasn't at the university or marking some students' papers, I'd be on the PC playing Siege. And I remember my team at the time and I, back in 2018, I was one of the first women to qualify for Challenger League in Australia. And I was like, yeah, this is so cool. And my team sat me down and said, Jess, you work too much. You can't scrim and work as much as you work. So what do you want to do? And I was like, bugger, I'll just have to work. And I'm like, don't worry, we'll get a replacement for me, whatever. That's as close as I got to, the peak of my, I guess, competitive career as a player. And then as I sort of got into the crux of teaching at the university in Melbourne, I sat down one day. It was a real weird feeling. And it was after I'd essentially got put onto the bench by my team. And I sat down and I went, I feel like I'm 60 years old in a 20-year-old body. And I didn't know how to take it. And I was like, no, I need to stop myself now, because I was the youngest in the law faculty at the university. I really wanted to travel and learn languages. That was a huge thing for me. I'm one of those people that craves knowledge. And I thought if I didn't do it then I would probably go so deep into my career really early on, really young, that I wouldn't get that opportunity otherwise. So I ended up moving to Switzerland and then, of course, migrating over to Germany to work for Penta as a pro league analyst. And that was very lucky, and it kind of just spurred me on that way going from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Melbourne, by the way, one of the favorite cities I've ever been to in my life. I went there in February. I couldn't believe, there's just greenery everywhere. That's something that struck me about it. If there's a tree that can grow somewhere, it will, because I guess because your climate is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But obviously, speaking a little bit more about Penta, that your role as a sort of analyst and a coach there, what was that experience kind of like for you, sort of moving all the way across to Europe, being planted in this team? How did you kind of fit in there?
I think to start off with, I came across to the team as quite intimidating. I have a military background as well. During my degrees, I was part-time in the military. So for me coming in there, I knew I had some players, for the most part, players coming quite young. But for whatever reason, this team had quite some of the oldest players that exist in Siege. So it was quite a bit of a mix of young players and then some of the older players together. And those older players didn't really take a leadership role the way I guess I initially expected them to. And so I came in going, well, damn, I guess I'll grab every single leash and rein and just take it from there, boys, and let's see where we can go with this. And yeah, naturally progressing from the analyst role into the coach role, the boys never really questioned it because I did the same thing throughout the whole time anyway. So it made natural sense to move on. But it was like being a mother, but to 5 people who, even though some of them were older than me, I definitely felt like I was mothering them a lot of the time. So it's cute.
Yeah, it must be quite a difficult role to take on, I'm sure. And Esio, have you kind of ever done anything like that in terms of sort of coaching or any of that sort of side of CS?
No, and the thing with the whole leadership, and I've always argued this, at least as both an analyst, a coach, and now talent as well, is that support staff shouldn't come in just having known the game, because that was my point coming in, is that I'm obviously a psychological specialist with criminals, and that I want to be able to help manipulate the mentality of players and get them to understand emotionally, mentally, cognitively how that works with them and how that plays with the game, and vice versa. That's a lot more difficult when it comes to practice. I think it's easier to say something than do something. And a lot of players don't like to be told what to do or how to feel, essentially. So that was the biggest challenge for me. And I think, and I do remember it, and this has been public anyway for quite a while, but one of my players said to me one time, he goes, this is not the military, Jess. You know, if I want to join the military, I'd go join the military. And I thought to myself at that point, wow, people in this industry, some of them don't take the job as serious as like when I was working in the law faculty, you know what I mean? And I went, oh, I really know what I'm up against here. And I had to change the way I thought about esports from pretty much that day onwards.
Oh, interesting. That was something actually we were talking about, Jackie, weren't we, beforehand, of the actual crossover of, you know, psychology and criminology over into esports. You know, we were sort of speculating, how often does that kind of happen? How do you use, you know, those skills from your degree in esports?
I would say not as much as I had envisioned initially. And there was probably a reason that after I finished my Pro League debut and essentially career with Penta, and then I moved on and I got bought out by an Italian team to help them reach their national finals. After that, I said no more coaching. I can't do it. Not as Siege exists now. Like, let's say CSGO. And I remember one time the Vitality guys, the CS Vitality guys, and they're all lovely, of course. They were boot camping where I used to the gaming center at Penta. They would boot camp there as well. And I remember speaking to them and them being so serious about having a mental coach, having a separate this and having a separate that, and everything was really structured. And I envied them because that's the way we should be going with esports as a whole. And Siege is too young for that at the moment, and it very well may likely be too young for quite a while now. So my ideas, my forward thinking, doesn't quite have a place just yet. So yeah, unfortunately, I think I came in a bit too early.
Yeah, Ben, we were sort of speaking about earlier, right, with the UK scene. Do you think that's something that they could have sort of benefited from, sort of coming into it, having a sort of, you know, maybe psychologist, maybe like Astralis?
I do remember a quote from somebody about that where they basically just said, I'm here to coach, not be your psychologist. And I think that is the line, isn't it? That's the line of, you know, you're meant to be, say, individual, there's a coach for the game, and then there's a mental coach. Yeah. It's not meant to be the same person. It's very rare that you have somebody who can do both, especially in the UK where they don't respect the coach in the first place.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's a huge thing. I mean, I want to mirror what you said there about that, is that I came in and I think I was a little bit too optimistic about how much respect I would receive as a person and as someone I consider myself a professional. And it goes to show that afterwards that very possibly you look back and go, hang on, I don't think I really had the recognition and the appreciation for all the work that I may have put in. And that's a hard pill to swallow, I think, for a lot of coaches, a lot of sport, and even players, you know. So, yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. You kind of mentioned about, you know, Rainbow Six being a much younger title as well. So I imagine you've, well, I'm kind of presuming here, have you seen some changes in the ecosystem and kind of the players and their respect for the game over that period of time?
Yeah, I think coaches like Shaz, who coached, you know, some of the best iteration of G2/Penta that's ever existed, and people around and went, well, you know, they've never changed coach and they've always pretty much been great, essentially, you know, one of the best teams in the world. So that must be a factor that plays into it. And I've always looked up to him as a result of that. But if you think about it, all these players that existed on the team were already great. They were already leagues above others. So I think it comes down to, you can give them all the support stuff that you want, but it's how the players respond to those support staff and are able to mold around it. And if you don't have respect for them, I think it becomes very obvious very quickly. I would say for the most part, a lot of coaches are expected to be endemic, which is a big mistake. I don't think if you look into the game and go, hey, you used to be a diamond or you used to play Challenger League, come coach us. And then they have no idea how to look out for emotional sparks. They have no idea how to understand when someone's having a breakdown or how to deal with that, or refer them left, right, and center. They have no idea how to understand why someone might be stalling out mid-round, and understanding those adaptations of strats and strategicness that you would need to apply to get them to circumvent those mental or emotional stalls. So that's where we go wrong. And I would love to see a change, and I'm a huge advocate for it. But in Siege, maybe there's 3 organizations that are currently running that in the world at the moment that I would confidently say that for Siege.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we don't really see too much. I mean, we kind of do, we kind of don't. Obviously, Astralis has sort of had that psychologist
But that was
role,
huge.
which
That
was
that
groundbreaking.
documentary they put out about, and she was I might get this wrong, and I apologize to her if I do. She was a professional ski sports psychologist, something to that
Yes,
effect.
she was
and
a sports psychologist. Yes,
that's right. And they moved her over into a role that no one's ever really done. You can't really call yourself an esports psychologist, really. I mean, as a term yet. So I think she did fantastic, and just see the results beyond that. So it speaks worlds, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And we were talking about complexity earlier, Jackie, as well.
Yeah.
They sort of brought on that role as well, and it's actually really, really cool. Sort of see it becoming a more important part of esports, because there's a reason why people have it in sports, right? And if you want to keep growing this industry and sort of getting more towards that sort of mainstream, I don't want to use that word, but the mainstream level, that's kind of what you've got to do, right?
Yeah.
People hate comparing sports to esports, don't they? They really hate it. But there is a reason behind so much of these things. They are there for a reason. You can't just avoid it.
Yeah.
There are places where it needs to be compared, and this is one of them.
Yeah, it's really useful. I wanted to ask you earlier, Ben, and I completely forgot. Just in terms of when you were actually playing Counter-Strike, because you've had that sort of love and the knowledge of stats and sort of analytics. Did you kind of implement that into your own game as a player and sort of to the other players in your team?
Not really, to be honest. It was a lot more of a hands-off approach when I was playing, because I was basically the reserve player on the team who would go to the place where everybody else didn't want to, just so I could try and keep everybody else happy. Just because, I know for a fact I'll be okay in every position I go to. I'll just try and keep that level. And then for my own plays, I know for a fact I always went to low risk, high reward, rather than when possible. I'd always try and make sure it's high percentage plays. That's the only time I'd ever really implement it. I didn't really talk to my team about it too much.
Oh, that's interesting. And sort of speaking about Penta as well, Jess, we were sort of talking about that sort of coach versus the sort of the analysis role. How did they kind of differ? Was there a lot of research in terms of sort of the analysis side of it, or were you mostly focusing on that sort of coaching and almost sort of psychologist role?
Look, I did a lot of analyst work, and I still do. I still freelance left, right, and center for, national teams who go to that league, and they're like, hey, I'm going up against these 3 opponents. I just want you to break them down for me from top to bottom. Let me know what we're coming up against. And that way I only have to pay a one-time fee. I'm out of here. We win or we don't, whatever. And I go, I love that. And I love a lot of German teams are really hardcore about that, actually.
Oh, really?
Lower level ones. Yeah, they really love getting the analysts in to break down a team and just cripple their crutch operator in a ban, or do this, or find out where they might put a key part of their setup. And I love doing counter analysis. I think probably my biggest strength, at least as a player, used to be was that I was a flex support. So I IGL'd. I did most of my comms for my team. Strats I had to use. I was a one-woman army when I was in Penta. I was the analyst. I was the coach. I was doing managerial stuff. You have to be prepared to be able to do everything. And I think for me, strategies in Siege are some of the most complex strategies that have ever existed in any shooter. And I'm happy to actively argue that till the day I die, essentially, because there's nothing that you couldn't set up in Siege that wouldn't be new. You could, any day of the week with the same map, create a brand new strategy that has never been done before at the click of a finger. And I think that that's what makes the game so versatile, and it makes experts, analysts like myself, or coaches or professionals in the scene, much more necessary, because there's so many variables. Players need to focus on playing. That's why they need people to break down the real big intricacies of it. And that's probably where I went deep, was what was the other team doing? Can I find out what their weakness is? Oh yeah, there it is. And I think the biggest example of that was season 9 was probably the best season I've ever had as a professional coach. Obviously will ever be the best season I've ever had. I managed to devise 2 different Counter-Strike to beat the 2 undefeated teams, Team Empire and G2. And I remember at the time people go, she did it. She broke the unbreakable. And for me, there were little things. Oh, we need a mute because they rely on drones. And I want them on every door upon which every site you're going to have a crossfire on, so that if they enter, they have no opportunity to know which angle you're holding. Or for G2, they're really good at long-range fights. I want you to wait I want you to peek once. Yeah, but what if no. I just want you to sit there in a corner and wait for them to come in, because they struggle with that late round. They struggle with those close engagements. It's things like this that people need to be able to implement if they want to win sometimes.
Yeah, that's actually really cool to hear that, because as somebody who comes from that Counter-Strike background, I played quite a bit of Rainbow Six, really enjoyed it, but it's really interesting to see the sort of differences in terms of, the strategies that can come out, like you were saying, there are just so many things you can do. Like, you can break down almost any wall. You can do all these different things. You've got all these different abilities. I think maybe this is where you can come in, Jacky, because you've kind of seen both sides of it. I imagine I think it kind of frustrates me that a lot of people compare Counter-Strike to Rainbow Six. And it's just like, well, yeah, fundamentally, there's a bomb and you got to defuse it. That's kind of where the similarities end, for me at least.
Oh yeah, like in terms of like baseline, obviously backbone of the way it works, right? Obviously you play post plants in the same way. You want to hold crossfires. It's literally based off of essentially, especially in Siege, like in terms of playing with confidence is a big deal because you do kind of have that bit of peekers advantage. If you've got a lot of hours in CS and you understand the base mechanics, obviously you'll be able to transition that. It's more what then gets layered on top. It's a lot more like a cake. It's got a lot of decoration on it in terms of the operators, right? Way more layers there because you've got all the different potential kits that could be used then from one operator to another. I've said it in the past in the sense where if you compare like Capital as one operator that has the ability to basically have a smoke and a Molotov on one character, right? That's the sort of depth you're looking at. Rather than having base utility that you would have in CS, and that's how you run the strats, and that's what's on top of sort of the base mechanics of the game. Obviously in Siege, it's way more in depth because you've got all these different operators that can provide different roles, and in terms of that, you've also got that ban phase, which is unique, because not only are you vetoing the maps, you're also vetoing ops, right? So it's way different in that sense. Each match can look very different based on a couple of small intricacies.
Yeah, I love that analogy as well. I love all your analogies, Jacky. Cake,
Thanks,
that
Ryan.
is the perfect way
Everyone
to
loves
describe
cake.
it, really. Everybody loves cake. But I'm kind of interested to hear what you think about that sort of opinion, Ben, as somebody, who comes from CS. And it's such a complex game. I think it's, a bit of apples and oranges when you're comparing the two first-person shooters.
Yeah, it's never a game I've actually tried just yet, but when I've been seeing it, it's a case of the rounds are a total of about 5 minutes when you consider the prep phase and all that extra stuff included. Which
about 3.5, 4.
Yeah, compared to CS, that's nearly doubled straight up as well, worth noting. So obviously that means there is a lot more variation of strategy, which obviously I was a big fan of that stuff. That was one of my favorite things as a player, doing the anti-stratting, as you mentioned. Like it's so fun to watch a team and be like, this guy plays here like every round.
Yeah.
But he never, when he goes off, if you push him back, he goes to this spot. And you're like, oh, he's not here, he'll probably be there. The like small things like that, like counter-stratting in any game, it's probably one of the most fun things to do. Especially when you see them then do it in the live game and you're like, oh, here we go, we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. Oh my gosh. But it's kind of like, I do like the strategy behind everything, like the versatility. It's probably one of the games I will try at some point, but it's just a case of, CS is still, the one that's true. It holds. But as I said, that'll be the case for most people, though, right? They'll play their one game and then they'll try others, but nothing will ever hold up to the original that brought them to the world, right?
Yeah, it's difficult as well when you've only sort of got a certain amount of time that you can put into one game, and you've got to decide which one it is. It doesn't mean you love the other one any less. It's just that this one has got your attention right now, and that's sort of perfect way to put it, really. Just in terms of we're sort of talking about the sort of analysis roles, and I'm interested to hear from you, Jess, what you kind of, how you actually did it within the team. What was your sort of day-to-day maybe, and what were the certain things that you did to sort of gain those statistics? And was it basically just a lot of VOD reviews, really?
There's a lot of VOD reviews in Siege, unfortunately. We don't have a replay option yet. It did get announced at the SI 2020 and everyone went absolutely, you had to have been in the stadium. It's like, oh, SSG won? No. You know what's more exciting? Replays. That's when the crowd went wild and it was unbelievable. And I was sitting there going, oh, that is amazing. I mean, that's what we need to be able to, CSGO, how long has it had that for? Like, come on. Like, I cast CSGO as well, not to the level I'm sure all of you guys have, but I mean, I love CSGO. I played many hundreds of hours myself, and I actually started on console of Call of Duty Black Ops. I was Prestige Master 880.
Okay, Black Ops 1, I'm just putting it out there, unpopular opinion, the best Call of Duty ever. I'm sorry, everyone's going to hate me.
You say that, but then I moved on to Black Ops 2 because you had to, because remember the servers ran out of people, by the time you slowly migrated over to Black Ops 2. And I probably sunk more hours in there than a human probably ever should whilst doing a master's degree. So never again. And then at the same time trying Siege console-wise, and then, of course, moving to PC. But I guess a typical day in the life of an analyst, and this people ask me all the time. They come to my stream and say, what do you do? Like, how do I even get prepared to do what you have done? How do I get that experience to be able to jump into a role like that? And I think the best way for me was I did data subjects during my master's degree, so it was easy for me to collect a lot of statistics. I'm trained in Excel, etc. So it's sweet. I'm very happy with that. If I wasn't, I would probably needed to have practiced a heck of a lot. But there's a lot that needs to go on the Excel sheets for Siege, unfortunately. But for the most part, your players want to know, one, what do they need to do better? And two, what do they need to do to overcome the opponent on that day? And whether or not it's one match or 2 matches per week, or if you're going to a 6 invitational, or you go into a major, for example, you know, you're absolutely flat strapped for like the 2 weeks before the major or the tournament. Like 9 times out of 10, your organization flies you to the boot camp, and you just sit there for like 8 hours a day, just churning through VODs, getting all the statistics, turning around, watching all of their scrims, giving their feedback, then going back to the VODs, and then maybe in between it all, getting some food and drink and some kind of sustenance in life. So probably for the most part, if you're going to do it in Siege, you'll be watching your opponents and you'll be watching your own team, and you'll be trying to give them solutions. No one wants to know what's wrong. They want to know exactly how to fix it and how to, at least for your opponents, get the better of them at the best of times. So yeah, that's the biggest job of an analyst. And then statistics around it is huge. Like, I wish I could show you, but there's huge Excel sheets we do. We collect how many times they're likely to pick this map, this operator, ban this operator, anything from who is their entry fragger and what is their success entering on this particular site, what's their headshot ratio, what okay, if their headshot ratio is this, are they always aiming head height? Should we crouch? Should we apply a shield as a result? Should we try and smoke them back and force them not to get the first opening kill in the first minute? I mean, there's so much you have to think of, and then there's like 6 hours of scrims as well. So I don't know how I slept. I feel like I've aged like 20 years during
It
that
doesn't
1
sound
year
like you
alone.
slept very much, Jess. That is a
No, probably not.
absolutely nuts schedule. Well, I think it is about time. You know, we take a little bit break from the analysis and get on to what I think is the most important part of the show, which is, of course, our Microaces Tournament. And if you're not familiar with it, think, you know, star on a reasonably priced car, Top Gear, but online, and on a very difficult kind of game to maneuver. I'm sure everybody here can attest to that fact, especially Jacky, because a little Betty's told me yours is still last.
I'm not
on
at the bottom.
list.
I'm not at the
You're
bottom.
not at the bottom.
No, I'm
you're
second to
not.
last now. I'm
Oh.
pretty sure.
Well,
I was overtaken by David, wasn't I?
You were, yeah. David
Yeah.
was bottom, but you know what? We ran out of spaces on the leaderboard, so you still don't appear on there. I don't
Nightmare.
think. So we're going to take a little. We're going to take a little bit of a recap of the current leaderboard before we see Jess and Ben take on our Micro Aces challenge. I believe it's Lethal that's still at the top, which
Big
I
man Harry.
fail to
Of course
believe.
it is. You know, his name is Harry. He's never even read or watched Harry Potter. I just want everyone to know that. Like, he should be
No.
shunned
He's
from
a
this earth
cockney.
for that.
Legally, he's not allowed to.
Okay, is that the rule? Got
Yeah,
you.
yeah. If you're born in Hackney, they just tell you don't bother.
Yeah, not allowed. Well, you know what he is good at? Microaces, apparently. Which, you know what? I think we've got to give some more strict rules next time, haven't we, Jacky? Because I think he might have taken advantage of that.
Well, we never know, right? But it's just he is a bit of a shady fellow. So...
Yeah. But of course, Sims as well, 30 seconds, very impressive. I'm down there, 7th. I feel like I might get pushed down to 9th on this round. But this is actually going to be the last one that we do for this particular, I was going to call it map, I guess circuit, that's probably a better word. And we're going to start a new one. So we're going to have a champion crowned by the end of today, which I'm very excited about. I want to get your feelings, first of all. Jess, just before we jump into your clip, how do you feel you did?
I mean, I feel robbed because looking at these times, these people have definitely done more practice laps than I have. There's no way they just chucked like 3 laps in and they're like, okay, here's my go. Like, I don't believe that for a second. I stood by the rules like a good criminologist and I said, 1 practice round and then I jump into it. And I'm really embarrassed as the clip is likely to load up and everyone else is going to look way better than I am. And that's just, I followed the rules. I want everyone to know that.
And I'm very glad to hear it. We're going to jump
Thank you.
into the clip and let's take a look at how you did. I'm very excited to see if anybody is going to be using your little mouse pad trick, Jacky.
Oh, my little hack.
Yeah.
I wonder, we've not
You
seen
have
it
a
yet.
hack?
Yeah, you can see that mouse map right there. You can go right over that bad boy.
Wait, what?
Yep.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
Oh, I like the little
I
bit of
didn't know that.
reverse. I like that.
Well, someone
Here we
knocked
go.
me over on my jump, so couldn't really.
They're very aggressive, aren't they? Most aggressive AI I've ever come across.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was
There
a
we
bounce
go.
off the mouse
Yeah,
mat
I was
there.
gonna say.
Yeah, you can definitely get over it.
Is it just the corner side of it?
Yeah, you have
perhaps?
to. Oh no.
no.
Oh, Jess.
But you haven't gone into the mug yet, which I'm quite impressed with, because that's the
Thank
first
you.
thing that people seem to do is go right into the side of that mug. Look at this. You got the hang of it now.
She's
That's
in the
not
zone.
bad. Yeah. You know what? I'm pretty impressed, Jess.
Thank you.
You still feeling a little bit more confident after that?
What was my timing? Where do I sit on this leaderboard?
Should we take a
of-
look? Let's
yeah.
not leave you waiting. Let's have a look at the updated leaderboard with Jess's time on it.
Let's
Oh, you
go.
beat me!
Goodbye, Freya.
Well done.
Get
Oh
outta
god,
here.
I'm getting wrecked. No,
Wow.
41.9.
That'll teach you a lesson. You've finally taken an L.
Well, I'm hoping that Ben might not be knocking me down to 9th, but I'm wondering how you think you did.
Well, Jack told me simply it was just like you can have a warm-up run and then the next one just do that. And I feel very confident with mine. I thought I did very well because I think I bumped like twice, but I didn't fall off.
Ooh.
The falling off is the thing that really takes your time away.
Yes, yeah,
Because
that is true.
it's like when you fall off a Mario Kart, you have that slow drop, and then yeah, it messes you up.
The
But I think I did
inevitable
okay.
death. You know that's coming, and the time is just ticking away. Well, let's take a look and let's see how you did. I'm excited. If you've only 2 bumps, but no mouse pad again. Gutted.
No mouse pads. I really didn't think you could go over like any of the things.
No,
Oh,
you
yeah.
did not just play this once.
It was
I'm
the one I was
sorry.
incredible at Micro Machines on the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
Oh,
See, that's the
okay.
similarity. Yeah.
So there's a few bumps though along the way. Just like keep hitting
It's pretty
the
smooth,
corners.
though.
Yeah.
I try to not go too fast. The first I just went straight off the edge.
I mean, you can tell who's doing well by if they're in front of the other cars.
Yeah.
That's normally the telltale sign of them being able to beat the normal times.
Oh,
Ooh.
I'm
See,
actually.
I was worried about that.
Ooh,
Yeah.
the wheel twitch at the end. Scared.
I'm quite excited though because I think this could be. I think you could be
Yeah.
top 3 of this. Easy.
We're getting a hashtag world record. Is it happening, Benjamin?
Hashtag world record.
Yeah. I'm
Well,
putting that out. That'll be going global.
Let's
There
see.
was a big gap, wasn't
We
there?
should have got a prize. I should have got like a little trophy or something. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
fashion one when we go to the screen. Maybe I'll try and find something that we can give as a little cup. But let's take a look. Let's see if Ben has managed to take that number 1 spot away from Lethal. Oh,
Oh.
close.
Oh,
So close.
he's been bested by Sims.
very, very close one though.
It's all those Halo players.
I know. Look at them. They're sick on the sticks.
I bet Harry got his controller out, didn't he?
He did play on
Oh,
pad.
100%.
Yeah, 100% played on
Yeah.
pad there.
Really?
I
Oh.
feel, well, look, being a Halo 3 player, you can just tell. 28 seconds. Who else is achieving numbers like that?
That's amazing. Well, GG to Lethal. Whether it was legit or not, that's the number we've got on the leaderboard. So we've got to go with it. And you have pushed me down into 9th, but I'm repping
Still on the board.
the show crew. So I'm very happy with that. And I'm excited to, get a clean slate, Jackie. I bet you're excited to maybe get your name back up there.
New season, new me. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Exactly. Any tactics that you've got going into it, you think?
Oh, I'll have to try and see if there's another mouse mat.
True. I'm very excited to see what the other circuits are. But thank you very much, guys. That was a great way to round off the season 1 of the Microaces Tournament. Fantastic stuff. But getting back, to the analysis side of it, the main focus of this show, we were sort of talking about the UK scene with Ben earlier on within Counter-Strike. But I'm interested to hear what the Australian scene is like within Rainbow Six. Is there sort of a big player base there?
Yes, there are quite a lot of very loyal and devoted players, especially ones that have been in the scene for quite a few years. Like now that I'm back for a little bit, and of course, not by choice, I accidentally got stuck here in the midst of things and couldn't get back. So I was like, oh no, I guess I'll just play Siege here now. And then I was sort of bumping into a lot of people either in the pro scene or the semi-professional scene that I used to either cast or play with years and years ago. So they're still here. They're still kicking around. The biggest thing is that now that I guess APAC North exists, there's the EUL, there's NAL and everything, and then Oceania kind of split off by itself, right, and is doing its own little thing, which is really cool for them. But Australia has always been underdeveloped. And that's always been their problem, is that they've never been able to get investments. They've never been able to reach audience sizes that would warrant an investment to begin with. All of those areas that make it that not only just for talent, not only just for, well, especially support staffing, if they even exist, you would be volunteer. 9 times out of 10, even pro teams in the Australian scene, I think I can name 2 that I know even get a salary, a livable salary at all. So that's tier 1 pro teams in the Australian scene, which is brutal because these players are putting, you know, full-time hours into something and then having to work part-time jobs on the weekend or, you know, live with their parents to get by. You have to be devoted and loyal to a game to go through that, I think, and that just shows, I think, the love for the game and the community as a whole. Yeah,
that is really fantastic to hear. Do you think there's any sort of steps that need to be taken in order to sort of push, you know, that scene to be at the heights of sort of the other scenes that we see? Is it just perhaps having more competitions for those sort of regions to be competing in?
I think the biggest thing that we always bring up when we talk about the ANZ scene, globally especially, because Fnatic was like that one team that reigned from there that would always represent Australia, and they always did well, have always done well for Australia, even at, you know, the World Championship. So then they're obviously not a scene that doesn't hail champions. You know what I mean? They've got good players. But you think about geographically, Australia is awful to get involved with. I mean, I know coming from Australia that I had to give myself any chance, I had to go over to some kind of mainland continent which would provide any kind of opportunity for me. And Australia's just not it. I mean, in order to scrim teams at your level, you got to like try and, I guess, if it's not going to be your direct competitors in Australia, you got to try the Japanese teams on like 80 ping. Maybe you can try some of the Western North American teams on 100 and something ping. I mean, that's not a way to train. At the end of the day, they've got the short stick, or short end of the stick rather. And I think that won't ever improve unless we all get our paddles out and we go to the coast. And most of us live on the coast. I mean, the ocean is just over there. And we slowly paddle ourselves north.
Get it moving.
Ever so slightly. And we just get closer to the Asian regions maybe, or maybe we can push ourselves to like closer to the North American side and just get something closer, because otherwise Australia's, it's cut off from the world, literally.
You have mingled though with, of course, the English scene back with the ESL Premiership stuff, and I wanted to talk to you both about this one because there is actually a timeline here where all 3 of us were at the same tournament in Manchester, which is quite possibly one of the most bizarre LAN events I've been to. Freya, we were there, and there was a boxing match, bare knuckle boxing match, that was going on the opposite side of where Siege and Counter-Strike was being played.
Sure.
And then there was also a Star Wars themed Katana bar that was upstairs, and that's where they had the after party for this event with life-size Star Wars figures.
I didn't make it to the after party. I was like, really? That was at the after party? And then I remembered, I'm like, no, I went back to the hotel and I fell asleep and I missed out on it.
There was also on the second day when we came in, obviously when you guys had finished up with Rainbow Six, Jess, we came in to do CS, and they were doing a car boot sale, Freya, and the entire car park was full of hundreds of people from Manchester. There was, Dickinson's was there as well, walking around doing real deals. It was mental.
That's amazing. That is absolutely iconic. I think that sort of exemplifies a UK esports tournament back in the day,
boxing
really. Yeah.
And bargains.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is so cool. I love it. Absolutely love it.
The separation, though, because when you arrived to go to the after party, they had to make sure, are you for the gaming? Just so you didn't mingle with the wrong people.
Are you for the game?
But,
because
because
you didn't get the wrong people.
The best bit was obviously we've come over in a group of like 5 people, right? A good mix of us, and then there's everyone else in like these suits, full Conor McGregor-esque, like ready for the bare knuckle scrap, right? This massive bouncer, he's seen us come in, and he's instantly just gone, "You're not getting in like that," and then went, "Oh, hang on a minute, sorry lads, gaming is it?" And we were just like, yeah.
Good old gaming. I love that. Well, staying on the theme of, a little bit of Australia, a little bit of Rainbow Six, we've actually got another little bit of a challenge for you, Jess. But we've made it a bit easier for you. It's guessing what Rainbow Six map this is. But we put them upside down because, you see everything upside
so I can
down,
understand.
right?
Yeah,
Naturally,
exactly.
yeah.
So I think if I
wait, you know what I'm gonna have to do if we're doing this, because I just realized I do something a certain way. Okay, all right, I'm ready to
Oh
go.
my
there
god.
we go. She's on brand.
Amazing. Right. Okay. You're ready. You're in the zone.
Mhm.
Let's
Yeah.
get the first one up. Let's see what you think this map is.
This is Clubhouse.
It is indeed.
Oh, well done.
Straight off the bat.
That was
Love
quick.
that. There we go. There it is.
Yeah, the bottom
Beautiful
of blue.
stuff.
That's it.
Okay. Number 2 might be a little bit more tricky.
That is Coastline in VIP.
It is. Oh my god, you're quick at these. Nice one. There we go.
I didn't know
Actually,
you did
no, it's not
a
even
degree in
VIP,
mapology.
It's Aqua. I know every map off by heart. But
Yeah,
you won't trick me
evidently.
here.
Okay. Number 3.
That's theme park.
It is theme park. And then number 4.
That
The
is
final
Villa.
one. It's Villa. God, you're too good at these.
I
Maybe we should
know.
have put them the right way up. It might have been a bit more tricky then.
See, now I don't know what it is.
Why is it upside down?
Now it doesn't make any sense.
That's amazing. So cool.
Love that. All right, I'm gonna.
I love how you
just-
said upside down. I love how you have a bind for that as well. It's
I
just
know.
instantly.
It's the joke, so you gotta run with it. You know what I mean? You gotta have something on brand as an Australian. So I'm not gonna chuck a shoey. So I'll just do the flip upside down thing.
Yeah, the iconic thing from I Am Sydney, I think, is just the shoeies that always come under the crowd. Absolutely beautiful.
You'd
but
have to
one
pay
other
me to
thing.
do it.
Oh god, it's grim. I don't know how
Ooh.
anybody can do that. Absolutely
Keep
disgusting.
your shoes clean. Why you got such dirty feet, Freya?
Yeah, that's the issue. I think
Exactly.
That's the issue there with it, isn't it?
Walking around with your dirty feet. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely disgusting. Well, the Australians obviously know how to keep their boots clean. That's definitely it.
Well, keep
Well,
the spiders out.
Oh no! Oh my god, that was one thing I couldn't even fathom. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the spiders? They're so big. I can't.
I mean, the bigger they are, generally, like the less dangerous they are. Same with snakes and stuff.
Really?
So, like, you generally feel pretty safe if it's a bigger one. 9 times out of 10, of course. Like, the bird-eating spider is, as big as my head, if not bigger, and that's a bird-eating spider. That's the kind of spider you want to see. You don't want to see little, like, redback, which is like this big, and yeah, it goes against logic, I'm sure. But for the most
What's the
part, you just gotta
scariest
look-
one you've seen, Jess? What's like out there that you've spotted and just been like, this is it. I'm done. I need to leave.
I was leaning against a tree during my one of my and what are they calling it these days? We used to where you go out and you lay in the rain and everything during army training. I can't even remember what they would call it back then. And you used to lay out of the rain, you'd build yourself a tent and everything, and then at 5 a.m. one of your sergeants would come screening, you have to load your weapon in time, blah blah blah. Anyway, whatever that was, we're leaning against the tree and going through, and we used to trade jerky. I used to trade my jerky for the M&Ms in our little tucker box things that they gave us.
That's
And
incredible.
yeah, and I was leaning up against the tree, and someone said, "Just don't move." And I thought, "You're kidding me!" And I thought it was a snake initially because 9 times out of 10 you think it's a snake out in the bush. And they go, "Don't move." And I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Just stay really still." And for whatever life of me, a wolf spider came out of the bark behind me. And you would want to stay away from that, absolutely. And this wolf spider just went, and then into the bark around the back of me. And they said, "All right,
Nope.
sit up, but really fast." And I was like, "Just pull me up really fast, because like if it comes back out again, like I have no hope." I got launched up, and I remember thinking that's probably the scariest and closest encounter I've had to a spider. So
That's awful. Ben, you don't look too phased by that. You're not scared of spiders.
I crushed them on sight. I've had my dealings with insects and everything. I've had many things hit me. So at this point, I just kill them as soon as I see them.
what? Oh,
Ben
That's-
did
You're
get
not welcome
bested
in
in
Australia.
Sweden, though. You had your
Oh.
run-ins in Sweden, didn't you?
I mean, you say that, but it was after I got back
True,
that I noticed it. Because I was just in your house and I was like, "What is that?" And it's just a tick, like under my arm, like on my armpit.
no.
Which
Pull out very fast, yeah. No.
Oh yeah, I didn't pull out cleanly. It was not a
Oh,
clean
no,
ordeal.
no.
Yeah, it was a bit of a worry for a few days. But everything's fine now. It's fine
Well,
now.
on that note, Ben, it's been fabulous to have you joining us. Is there anything you want to say? Anything you're sort of getting up to? I know you mentioned obviously about Cologne. Is there anything else people should keep an eye out for you on?
Nothing really, just Cologne, I suppose. At the moment, that's the only thing booked in. So that's in 3 weeks' time now. Doing the whole things at Europe and North America. It's gonna be a good old 14-hour show days, 13 days in a row.
classic.
Yeah, the
So that'll be
good
good.
esports days.
Yeah, love it though. Love it.
Well, it's been absolutely fabulous to be able to speak to you today, Ben. Thank you so much for joining us. But that does mean that it's time to get our fourth guest of the evening on. It's, of course, Hawka.
Back to a bye. They really need this win, and look at the aggression. The spray does so much damage. Magis gets all 3 frags, and this round is already over and done with. Yeah, this was a 21 HP, and Device up close is forced out, but he gets the opening. Not quite the second. FNS manages to find the trade. Device there was forced out of AWP, but I'm surprised he's even picking up the AWP on the T side. It can be quite difficult to use, but the push comes in, and Glaive nearly shuts it down. Skadudu eventually gets the trade up close with the AWP. Another kill for Rush, but it's still Astralis holding the line.
Fabulous to have you join us, Hawka. Thank you so much. I was just trying to think about the last time I actually saw you at a LAN tournament, and it's been a hot minute, hasn't it? What have you been up to recently?
Yeah, I think it's been a while. I can't remember last time I saw you, but yeah, I've just been chilling at home mostly. I've been going to a couple of events. I went to Ukraine recently, which was good fun. Yeah, it's been nice. A lot of casting at home though, which is also nice. I'm really lucky to be at home with my family and not just living alone. So it's been good.
Yeah, that was it the We Play event, the Clutch Island one, where that set was nuts. I couldn't believe that.
It was so nice, and like you get to keep the clothes afterwards as well. They buy you clothes to wear on set that you get to keep. It's just like everything is so sick with We Play.
That is so cool. That's an interesting point you actually brought up. We haven't really talked too much about, the actual transition to becoming online and doing a lot of this stuff from home. What has that kind of been like for you, sort of being a caster? Actually, you've moved into some analyst roles, right?
Yeah, I started doing a few analyst things here and there. It's been good fun. I think the online casting is always just more exhausting for some reason because you don't really have that energy to feed off with someone. So you finish casting a map and then you sit there for 10 minutes by yourself like, oh, okay, there's not much I can do here. I guess I just sit around and try and re-energize a bit. So it's been nice at least having my family to talk to. But it's just a bit weirder, I guess, not being in person and not having that same ability to, talk to the person you've been casting with as quickly after the cast. It's been a bit weird, but it's nice that we can at least do it online, right?
Yeah, I think we're very lucky that we can still continue to do this. Actually, that's a question I sort of wanted to deflect to you as well, Jess. Has it been kind of weird adapting to a lot of these online broadcasts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 300 ping away from Paris, where the studio is, and I'm as close to Antarctica as you can sort of get these days. So that for me has been probably the harshest hit because, I mean, as an analyst, and then I'm also a commentator as well, almost vice versa every single game. I'll either be casting one or be on the analyst desk for one. And, I'm pretty much stuck to forcing it into like a color casting segment and then like a play-by-play with my duo, just purely out of the fact that I'm 1 second delayed. And that's by no one's fault, is it? But it's just literally geographically, that's what we're stuck at. And that's a huge thing to hear in the broadcast, isn't it, as a viewer to go, hang on, that happened a full second ago. So I've tried to cease all play-by-play, which is really difficult to do when you're a hybrid caster for the most part.
Yeah, I imagine that is incredibly difficult to being adapted to, and it's just unfortunate that's the sort of situation we're finding ourselves in. But as Alex said, good that we can still continue to do our productions online. And as you mentioned there, both of you, you both do a mixture of sort of commentary and analysis as well. Hawka, has it been a sort of strange or a difficult transition coming from doing mostly commentary, then going into that analysis role?
I think it's been a little bit different. The nice thing is it's normally working with people I've worked with at events before, so at least you kind of already know the people. Like I know Banks pretty well, who was hosting the We Play event, so he's always going to make sure I'm comfortable, make sure everything's going well there. I think just in general, the difference is more that I find for me when I'm casting a game, sometimes it's hard to actually pick up on everything that's happening because you are focusing on the casting side of it. Whereas when you just sit and watch the game and focus on analysis, there's so much more that you notice. And a lot of the times, there's almost too much to talk about, especially when you're doing segments like between maps. You get maybe 5 minutes to talk. You actually want to talk about more things, and you just kind of can't. You just have to really, I think, succinctly pick your points is the thing that I found most about analysts' work. Because when you're casting, you basically just say whatever comes to your mind, whatever your brain comes up with, you're like, yeah, I can say that. When you're on the desk, you've got 5 minutes. You've really got to pick your points. So I think that was the main difference for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. You've really got to sort of make the points count in a sense. It's sort of quite an interesting difference between the two roles. And I wondered on your side, Jess, is it sort of any different for you in terms of, we were talking about the sort of research and preparation for a lot of this, and I feel like Rainbow Six, especially when you see Geo with her notes, her absolute books of notes what she's researching to go on broadcast. Do you feel like it's any different for you in terms of your preparation for when you're casting versus your prep for when you're going to be an analyst on the desk?
I have to be an expert on 22 plus teams, and I came into it knowing full well that is what I would have to be an expert at. There's no way around it when you are doing 2 leagues, plus you might also do majors or whatever you do around it. The big and I like that Geo uploads her notes because it gives a little bit of insight into what all of the talent was already doing. So I like that she has gone and opened up and said, hey, this is what we go through. For someone like myself, my notes are endless. Like, I'm looking around my office right now and I could probably pick up 3 different, I could go through any of these and I bet you they're just notes from this entire season.
Sheets everywhere.
Just sheets everywhere. And that's the realism of it, because you can come in and you can say one wrong thing. Like, and I've talent been caught out doing it. Even, talent I've worked with, and you have to like get in the DMs and say like, you said that they never play this, but like literally I'm looking at my paper now and it says they've played this like 10 times in the past season. Like you can't be that guy or gal that walks in and doesn't know their stuff, because we're doing tier 1, you know what I mean? That's your job. You got to be ready to go. Yeah,
it's interesting to sort of think about that as well, with especially with you, Jacky. Moving over into sort of Rainbow Six. Was it was it a difficult transition for you? I know we were sort of talking about it a bit earlier, because you're doing the commentary and the analysis and some of the interviews in LATAM.
Not really in the sense of obviously it being uncomfortable, because I think it's obviously worked out very well. We'll get to speak to him a little bit later on, but Tim's popping on. Obviously, AceOfPyrite, lovely guy. He gets on with me. We get together like bread and bread with probably something in the middle. It works quite nicely. It's honestly the dream, right? Because obviously you've got the sense of being a play-by-play and a host through and through from everything I've done in Counter-Strike. You have the base understanding of like, how that carries over into Siege. And you've got someone like Tim that will feed you all of the information you need to know and will help you learn, obviously grow the more you work together. So it's been a nice transition. It's worked out quite nicely. Obviously 2 vastly different scenes, but there's a good mix in the middle.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually interesting mentioning sort of about the duos that you have to cast with, because Hawka, obviously you were started off with Dinka. I remember ECS season 5 and we were both in the green room for the first time. We were like, this is awesome, this is what it's all about. It was absolutely fantastic. Is it kind of strange to be, I know you've done some events sort of separately from Dinka, is it kind of strange to start joining up with other people, or to be moving onto a desk where you don't necessarily have a duo?
Yeah, I think you definitely build up a pretty good understanding with one person, and then it can throw things off slightly. But I think for the most part, it's more whenever I'm casting with someone else, you kind of just go back to fundamentals. You go back to basics more of the time. Whereas when I'm casting with Dinko, we've talked about, or we've looked back at VODs and we've said, okay, this here we need to do more of this. This here we need to do less of this. So I think there's more that goes into it when I'm casting with someone I'm more familiar with. I think on the desk, the thing that I found weird was just, it's very free flowing at times, especially with Banks, who likes to bring in some of his own points as well. So you kind of have to be able to quickly pick up on someone else's point and be able to maybe add on to it, or maybe weave your own points into there. Because as much as maybe the host will ask you something and you think that's not the most important thing to talk about, you can still kind of turn it into what you want to talk about, which I think was the biggest skill I really learned from being on the desk. Because again, when I'm casting, I just say whatever comes to my brain. Literally, I'm just like, Cash, that's a fun map, I like to play that. Just kidding, it's not in the pool anymore, but still, like, it's literally, exactly, when I'm casting, I can say stuff like that, and it's fine. When I'm on the desk, I feel like it's much more important to really tell the story of what happened in the game and not just go too much into like one specific round. So I think that was the main thing for me, was just being more concise and learning, I think, how to really make sure that I made sure I could say what I wanted to say on the desk and make sure that I could actually communicate effectively.
Yeah, it's fantastic to hear. And I think, you touched on it earlier. obviously with WePlay, the fantastic outfits that you get given on the broadcast. So you know what? We've compiled a little bit of an outfit review of all three of you, actually.
Ooh.
So we're going to take a look at some of your best fits, and we're going to rate them. And I absolutely love the segment we did it with Semler. It was a great hit. He absolutely loved reviewing his
He did have a lot of
outfits.
fun.
He had a great time. So yeah, I'm excited. Let's take a look at our first image that we've got up. I'm not sure who's coming up first. It's Jacky. Of course, it's Jacky.
Oh,
Look at this. Iconic. The sunglasses.
Yeah,
This
It's the
makes-
glasses that make it, isn't it?
Yeah.
the Elton John glasses. This is when I was going through the extravagancy of the Race to World First, where obviously we did like the 2-week-long WoW grind with IEM Chicago in the middle for like 2 days. So I just started going to all the nearby secondhand shops and buying different outfits for each day because I'd run out of clothes. So I bought everyone glasses and we were changing each stream.
That's amazing. The shirt as well. That's a good print.
Little floral number.
Yeah. I love that you love a little floral number. A little floral
yeah.
cord as well. I've seen you sporting.
Yeah,
Lovely
yeah.
stuff.
You got to get it on brand.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Let's take a look at our next image and see who this is going to be. Oh yeah,
Oh,
of
yeah.
course,
Oh.
it's the classic train
Wow.
conductor outfit. This is beautiful.
Yeah, you know what? Dinka refused to wear the train hat throughout the entire
No.
thing. And it's
What?
you've got to wear it. You've got to wear it. If I'm getting given a train conductor hat, I'm going to wear it because I had a great time. You see, Banks is having a great time there. We were having a lovely time with it. I can't believe because he cares too much about his hair. That's the problem with Dinka. He gets a haircut literally every week, this guy. So like lockdown for him, I think has just been torture because he's had
Oh
to
my
grow out his hair.
God.
He's just been hating it.
Oh, he must have had to learn to cut it himself or something.
I think he
like-
did, or maybe his mum did it for him or something. I don't even know.
But that suit as well, that is like tailor made.
Have
Oh,
you still
you-
got that?
Yeah, I still have it in my wardrobe
Nice.
upstairs, and we had to literally send like all our sizes in. It is actually tailor made perfectly to fit me. It
Wow.
was so incredible.
Beautiful.
I'd
Absolutely
let you
love
see
it.
my ticket any day in that.
Oh,
I think we've got a fit of yours, Jess, I believe, coming
Oh.
up next. Let's take a look. Look at this
I knew
number.
it would be it.
Yeah.
I knew it would be.
I love this.
Thank you. I actually and my girlfriend's gonna hate me for pointing this out. I was in the middle of a Zara store and I'm the girly one out of us two, of course. So I'm sailing through Zara going, I want this shirt and I want this. And I finally come to this rack where it had these like Jaguars and all these ridiculous, designs on these shirts and blouses. And I said, oh my God, babe, look at this. She goes, Jess, I really don't like it. She said it in Italian, but I got the gist of it. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, I just think it's a little too much. And so what I did was I went straight to the counter and I bought it. And as you do. And then we had a birthday that night and I purposefully wore it that night as well. So I've done everything in my power to wear it during the most important events. And that was the grand final moment where we all wore gold of some kind. And
Oh, wow.
that was my little get up for the grand final.
That is beautiful, though. I love it. And
Thank
you know
you.
what? I like the colour of it as well. Because
Mm.
you know what? We've seen some bright colours. I think that was the sort of main theme when we did it with Semler. But you know what? You can make a statement in some more, neutral tones. Absolutely
Yeah.
love it. I think Jacky's up next again. And I don't think it's going to be a neutral tone. Oh, no, it's actually... we've
that's
got
definitely
Hawka.
not Jackie.
So after I got a bit of a beard
Beautiful.
trim.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Look at this number. This is for the Clutch Island, right?
Yeah, and I had never wore ripped jeans before in my life, and now I own a pair thanks to
Wait,
this.
these
There we
weren't
go.
from home. These were
No.
also provided.
Oh yeah, no, we got these as well. We got to keep them all.
Did you fall over on the way to the set?
You know what?
Classic dad joke.
Every day I put them on, and every day I put my foot through the hole. I never
Yeah.
learned my lesson. The holes
Oh,
gradually got
no.
bigger throughout the days. I will say as well, traveling back just with like bags full of clothes was tough because you go out there with all your clothes and then all of a sudden you get given even more clothes. I mean, it's not a bad problem to have, I will say. But yeah, it's a nice little Hawaiian number.
That sounds like the dream. That is beautiful, though. And a beautiful set to go along with it as well. I love how they went all out and everybody
Yeah.
was wearing the
Oh,
Hawaiian. Beautiful stuff. Let's see who we've got up next because I think my order is completely wrong for this. Of course, it's Jacky.
Oh,
There it
And
is.
this is just.
oh God,
Please
I love
just-
that.
Explain this to me. I absolutely love it.
So I found the shoes on ASOS, Freya.
Yes, good.
And I
Good
was like, well,
start.
they're quite nice. And they were relatively cheap as well because they're just like a Puma like athlete shoots. So I picked those up. Found the rainbow socks on Etsy because I was like, boy, they're
Nice.
banging. They're the perfect combination.
Yeah.
The trousers, that's an ASOS marketplace look, and they were very cheap. They're only 20 quid. They were a steal. I was very happy with those as a gift to walk away with. And then the shirts, that's just the pure vaporwave, just outrageous scenes, whatever I can find, basically.
I just don't understand how you tie it together though, because none of this should go together, but you just
No.
make it work.
It's all about confidence. It's just like Counter-Strike or Siege. Without confidence, you've already lost.
Love it. Iconic. I want to get some of those trainers myself. They're beautiful. Love the pastel colours as well.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take a look at the next one. Might be another Jess number, I think. No, it's not. Definitely not.
The knock on, the two-piece. I always love these little two pieces. It all started with the love of the. It was the double oranges one that I got, where it was just fully oranges. I got that for the World of Warcraft stuff, and then since then I've been more inclined to rock the two-piece outfits with the short and shirt.
I love a co-ord. Very nice.
I
Very
like
nice
as well
stuff.
how in these pictures we actually get to see the bottom half, because in too many of the esports pictures it's just a shirt. You don't get to see the full outfit.
Yeah, true. That is a great thing though, I find, especially, going from being a stage host to normally, I'm not forced to wear heels, but I normally do choose to wear heels. And then going onto a desk, you can wear, I've got my Air Force Ones out, I'm comfy as hell, because you can't see my shoes. It's great. I love it. I love being
especially being at home. Like we just wear tops at this point.
Yeah.
Nothing on the bottom.
No.
Well, I think we've got one more, I believe. I think this is Jess. Oh yeah, and of course, you've got your wonderful analysts alongside you. You've got Parker and of course Kasan.
Big man Milosh.
I love it. It's beautiful.
Not bad, is it?
It's a good look. It's because I feel like this is the sort of look, Jess, that you'd rock when you were saying about people coming in and not really respecting the level of authority you carry. This is the look you'd put on when you'd go, guys, sit down. We are watching VODs tonight.
Yeah, and I remember the moment that they asked us to pull a face of some kind, and it had to have been Parker. Out of all the people that would have orchestrated this particular photo, it had to have been him. And so they made it out to be this, like, it was going to be like a new drama series, and like we were like the stars of this drama series or something to that effect, right? And I remember I still have that shirt because I've obviously rocked it a couple of times during, EUL and APAC North so far. But you can't really see it, but those bottoms, they were perfectly tailored to me before I went. And then I worked both 6 Invitational for what 10 days plus whatever it is. Then I flew straight to Dubai to work a CSGO event there. And by the time I got to Dubai, and I obviously washed these and put them back on, I lost so much weight from all the stress and like just working so much that they didn't fit me anymore. And it cost me $150 to have all of my pants tailored, like right in a proper way. And I look back on them and I think, oh no, like what a waste of, it was good for 6 Invitational, of course, but beyond, not so much. So I love that. But it's kind of got my tattoo there, and I'm glad it blocks out the top of my tattoo because that's a fresh one from Italy, and I can't get it finished, obviously, because my Italian artist is stuck in Italy and I'm stuck here. But the top of it is meant to be the Himalayas because I climbed it in 2010, and I was adamant that I wanted in every photo and every camera shot that wouldn't show because it's not finished yet. And people thought I had the same tattoo as one of the pro players, and I copied him. But it's only because the bottom bit was done and the top bit was not. So I had this thing where I would always check, is my sleeve not all the way up? You know what I mean? So that's a thing, yeah.
Oh, wow. Can we just go back to, you said you climbed the Himalayas?
Just casually threw that in there.
Yeah. Like, is there anything you haven't done, Jess?
I try and do everything. I really do. It's just one of those things where it's not because I want to tell people I did everything. It's that I would be very upset come like 50 years from now, fingers crossed, that, I'm sitting behind my computer gaming, you guys know the Granny Skyrim player. I want to be her, but like the Siege version of it kind of thing. And I'd be very sad if I was sitting there and I hadn't achieved all the things that I, wanted to achieve, which is everything.
That's so cool. What was that experience like? That must have been, sorry, going completely off topic of esports.
No,
this is what
that's
we were saying
okay.
about Jacky earlier. You find some people and they've just done these crazy things.
It's all the
must have been
personality.
so cool. Yeah.
I will give you a short story from 9 days up. It was a 10-day trek up to the top, and then you take all your photos and do all those things. On about the 8th or the 9th day, we were chugging down our altitude tablets, and I was feeling like absolute crap. And I remember thinking to myself, at that time, I'd never broken a bone, and I thought to myself, God, they said the only way we can get off the mountain is if we get helicoptered off, and the only way to get helicoptered off is if you can't make your way down on your own. Ooh. And the other way to not make it down on your own was to break a bone, essentially. And I kept thinking to myself, I held my leg out and I went, you could just do a little break, Jess, like just break it a little bit, so you don't have to climb anymore. It was so difficult. And a monkey stole my plate, and then they stole my bowl, so I had to eat for the last 3 days out of a mug. And it's very traumatizing when you're 15 to 16 years old and you climb the Himalayas and a monkey steals your stuff. So
he swung in like a little Tarzan-based thief and just robbed you. That's ridiculous.
I trusted him walking up, and I thought, this is great. We can get photos, we can do cute things. Just reaches out.
I'll be having your plate and your camera.
Oh my God.
That's how it works there, supposedly. And I wish I had been pre-warned, but naive and ignorant 15-year-old, never again. But the volunteering was good.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. That is really awesome. That's what I love about the show. We get to sort of discover so many cool things about people, so that's really awesome. But sort of coming back briefly onto the topic of analysis as well of our respective esports. I think it's really interesting with both of you guys because obviously you've done commentary both, you do analysis both, you kind of do a little bit of everything, and you also create content as well outside of the games. I wanted to sort of start off with you, Hawka, because we've seen you're uploading a lot of stuff to YouTube. I think one of my favorite things that you uploaded was the ranking which letter would make the best CS:GO team. Was such I would have never thought of that concept myself, but that was actually a really cool thing to watch and break it down. That must have been quite a long process of research for you.
I think I was up at 4 or 5 a.m. for some reason for that one, and one of my mates was up as well, and we just decided, you know what, let's get every first letter and just make a CS:GO team from every letter. I don't even remember which team was the best. It might have been S, because just Simple's on it, and got a bunch of good players. But yeah, just you have a good mix of fun stuff you can do, analysis stuff you can do. I think the big thing that's missing, especially in CS, is whenever I go back and watch demos from a player's POV, you notice so many more things that you don't get to notice when you're watching the stream, right? Because you're seeing all the action all the time on stream, because that's what you want to see. And then there's so many things off screen that you miss. So if I go back and watch demos, I start to realize, oh, wow, they did this really cool thing and this small little thing and this thing. There's just so many levels you can go to when you're doing content. So I think that's the nice thing for me, is it gives you even more of an ability to go just even more in depth.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. There was another one. Actually, I was talking about it with Jacky before the show, which was the one of Astralis on Vertigo, where you're like this, their utility usage in a particular round. I think it's really cool because I think you actually prefaced the video by saying, this round might not stand out to you in the grand scheme of things, but here is why it's so important. How do you kind of is it literally just by watching so much Counter-Strike that you notice those kind of little nuances and go, actually, this is something that is really worth talking about?
I think it is, especially when I actually open up the demo in game and start to just switch between the players mid-round, because I watched the round from every player's POV and I was like, oh, okay, so Zipex is doing this. What's Glaive doing? Oh, wow, he's throwing flashbangs for this guy and he's doing this for this guy. I think with Astralis, it's just the perfect scenario because their team play is unreal at times. Just the timings of everything seems to be perfect. It's almost like they are just in each other's brains somehow and just telepathically communicating. It's unbelievable. But I think in general, there's a really good ability to do this for a lot of different styles, because that's what CS has in abundance, is just a lot of different styles of play. I think I plan on doing a video on Art in the future, because he's just ridiculous, unbelievable.
That guy's outrageous.
Dude, the stats on him for opening kills, I think is the highest in anyone in CSGO history. So I'd love to do something on him in the future, because there's so many unique ways of playing Counter-Strike. It's so cool to see how different people, how different teams approach it.
And you're actually, you're sporting a bit of an arty look, aside from the ones we looked at today, Hawka. You've got for the yellow combination with the house. I'm feeling it. I've never seen anyone synergize their outfit with the walls before. What went through your mind for that one?
No, nothing went through my mind, Jacky. It was just all natural instinct, just my artistic side coming out naturally. It's just perfect. It's all gone great.
I'm living for it.
It's amazing, yeah. All gone according to plan. And I'm looking forward to that art video because he is the player I aspire to be like just holding W, but like smart. I think that's the thing. You see sometimes people holding. I mean, I can attest to this myself. I'm not at all a high level CS player. I play a lot of Counter-Strike. Holding W is my favorite thing to do, but it's not a smart way to do it. And watching art, it's just so calculated, and it's like he can just read pretty much every team that he plays against. I think I was at ECS season 7, and they got to the grand finals. Yeah, it was against Vitality, and it was him and Quizzical. It was just like, you guys are just nuts. Like, I don't understand how you can be so ballsy with your plays. It's insane.
Yeah, the thing with art as well is you have players that have played aggressively in the past, like when Stewie popped onto the scene, right? But it's a whole different level when you're actually the in-game leader, calling plays around yourself, and you can basically do it every round at that point. So it's just really cool to see. I think that's the thing that I've realized now with Counter-Strike that's really great is the different styles of teams. Because I used to think it was all about set pieces and all about making sure the nades are in the perfect place all the time. But you start to realize that there are teams that can be top teams without really doing as much of that. There's FaZe who can just be more of an individually focused team. It's that's the thing for me that's really stood out with CS is not necessarily just all the intricate details all the time. It's how different teams choose to play, which is the coolest thing. I don't know if it's similar in Siege. I know you were saying earlier that like the South American teams kind of play aggressively as well.
There is definitely like the overlap in the sense of it is kind of the same way, right? With like how Brazil in CS was always more of an aggressive region. I've definitely noticed that from the LATAM side of things, especially compared to like any of the European stuff. You then look at LATAM and some of the rounds you get where you literally have like a 30-second round on attack and they will just charge in and it is carnage. Before you've even noticed they've gone for an execute, right? The round's just done because they'll just frag in. It does definitely feel like there's the link there from CS to Siege in that sense.
Do you feel like that kind of reflects over onto perhaps like EU and APAC for you, Jess?
I think, yeah, it's pretty much exactly the same. You watch APAC and you're like, huh? And you compare it to EU and you're like, huh? And then obviously my preferred way of coaching and playing is the EU style because I think it respects the mechanics of the game and the understanding that the game is a tactical, objective-based shooter, really capitalize, bold it, underline objective, not just the shooter part. So for me, that's something I idealize as part of being the big part of competitive play. And then for APAC, a lot of the teams just go, yeah, okay, let's get in. And I'm like, you're ignoring the reinforcements. You're ignoring your utility. What about your flashbangs? You don't care, do you? You just want to get in and gun, which is fair enough if it has something behind it. I think for the most part, sometimes it doesn't. But I think LATAM is a great example of teams, especially highlight. Like you remember Liquid. I mean, they had a really good balance of super aggression but smart plays at the same time. So I think there's a lot of respect to be given to teams like Ninjas in Pajamas, second place, 6th Invitational 2020, blew me away. And to blow, and I'm not, that's obviously not to sound egotistical, but to blow someone like me away who's seen plays from all over the world, from Australia to Europe to North America, and then to sit there at 6th Invitational and go, I am actually physically blown away by what you've done. That's a big thing to do, and they managed to do that. So, yeah, a lot of respect.
Yeah, it's always fantastic to see that sort of play style. I remember, like way back at the minors, I think it actually was the Asian minor, and it was actually speaking to Blair as well, who was kind of trying to break down a lot of the stuff that was happening in these games. Because you just look at it and you're just like, this is a completely different style of play than we're used to seeing. We started off with, I think it was the NA minor that was first, and then you went into the Asian minor, and it was just like, what are these teams doing half the time? But it was cool to have that context for him to sort of give a bit of backstory to it, because obviously he's an expert in that kind of scene.
It's always kind of been like that in the sense of like CS, especially with like the regional differences of scenes. I remember even back in Source, it was, I can't remember if it was LAN 79 or one of the events, but basically like an Asian team turned up and were playing the most ridiculous CS you'd ever seen, in the sense of like there was no strategy, there was nothing that was standardized compared to anything else that was going on in the world in Source at that time, but they were just OP with Deagles, and they would effectively deco every round and just rip heads off, and it was like, well, I guess we've lost the Deagles. Like, fair enough.
That's just a thing. That's just a thing that's happened.
Yeah.
But in terms of the content that you're sort of producing on the side as well, Jess, obviously you're incredibly busy with the leagues. But you've done a podcast, right? The Prep Phase. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the poor little prep phase. It started off as something that sort of was, I had a bit of extra time between obviously getting back from Dubai in February and then everything going in lockdown and then not starting EUL at APAC until, sort of June or whatever. So I was kind of like, okay, I've got all this time and since I'm going to pretty much just stream full time anyway, and that's probably the biggest content outlet for me, is that I like doing things live. For me, the live medium is probably where most of my community sits. I have a YouTube, but I am very guilty of paying an editor to manage and make all of my videos for it instead. So I don't have to do anything myself on my YouTube, but I have it nonetheless. And doing pretty much everything else on Twitch to make sure that I can reach my community on a live medium at all times. And most of it's playing, but whilst I'm playing, I'm breaking things down. And then we moved on to the prep phase as kind of one of those things where I could bring in other coaches or players or guests. And I brought on Lycan after, his team and him had won the Six Invitational 2020, because I wanted to talk to him about coaching and how under-recognized and I guess underdeveloped the support staffing, whole thing is in Siege at the moment. And that was good, and that was great insight. But the trouble with Siege is that people say they want answers to things, and then when you give it to them, they don't want it the way that you've given it to them. They want like one sentence that clears all of the curiosity, as if you were going to be able to fit all of that information into like one sentence or a 2-minute little Twitter clip, and they go, oh yeah, now I know everything about support staffing. So I think it's a difficult, thing to do, and I unfortunately didn't get to continue the prep phase for as long as I wanted to, but maybe we'll bring it back, but I'm addicted to Siege. I'll be honest. I already have 5,000 hours on the game, so I'm just going to probably keep clocking more, and if I'm going to play it, might as well stream it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's a perfect time to say thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry that we've kept you on for a lot longer than we anticipated, but you know what? I absolutely loved every single minute of it. It's been fantastic to speak to you, Jess. Just before we let you go, is there anything that you're doing that you're allowed to talk about, and maybe give the fans a little tidbit?
No, nothing I can. It's my world is full of either NDAs or secret things. So just make sure you follow me on Twitter to check them out when they do come out.
The classic esports thing. Big things coming soon. So you know what? I absolutely love it. And I'm sure we'll see you very, very soon. But thank you once again so much for taking the time to join us. And of course, we're not going to be getting rid of the Rainbow Six love. We've got AceOfPyrite joining us as our final guest.
He doesn't know he's in the window! I'm not sure what just happened! Magna just held his position! He was pretending to be the alibi! He's waiting! Magna needs to stop doing this! He needs to stop doing this to Nora Renko!
Fantastic to have you join us, Ace. I've heard so many wonderful things about you from Jacky every single week on this show. How have you been keeping?
I'm very, very well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know the young Jacky. It's been a lot of fun working with him.
Yeah, he's a fantastic
it's all been my
dude.
pleasure, honestly.
That little bromance going on already here.
There's a lot of tension in the room. Like, there's so many cute people on this podcast. I don't know how we're maintaining it. It's like, come on, guys, we need to calm it down.
I think my favourite thing that Jacky did for you, I think we talked about it on a previous episode, was the happy birthday message from a voice of somebody in Siege. That's awesome.
It was great. I've worn a T-shirt to commemorate. Look, if I stand up a bit, you'll be able to see.
Oh, there he is. He's got the Mozzie shirt on.
I've got the old Mozzie logo shirt on.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was very kind of Jacky, to be fair. It was, I think we'd been working together 2 days at that point. Yeah, it was the Sunday. It was the first Sunday. It was my birthday that weekend. So yeah, we'd done 2 shows, and then Jacky swoops in with an awesome gift. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, lovely stuff, Jacky.
I try and treat all my boys nicely.
Yeah, you know what? You do. You're a lovely gentleman, Jacky. I've to start off a little bit more linear with you, though, Ace, because I'm actually not too familiar with how you kind of got into Siege overall and your sort of story behind it. Can you tell us a bit more about your history, sort of coming in as a commentator and an analyst?
Yeah, of course. So basically, I started with. I'm not a big first-person shooter sort of player historically, but I've cast a lot with another caster in the UK called Troika, and he got me into Call of Duty a little bit. It was around the Infinite Warfare time. We don't really talk about that too much, but he basically said to me, "Look, I think you've got the sort of mindset, the brain for search and destroy. So, if you've never played it, give it a go." So we started playing a little bit of that, and that sort of led us into finding Get Flanked on YouTube. He was there at about 500 subscribers. He's just reached 500,000 a couple of days ago, and we got involved, got chatting with him around that time as well. And he was transferring over to Siege, so we went sort of along with it, and it sort of took off from there. Really, just started playing on console, and then eventually moved across to PC. Started up a YouTube channel, and commentary came about as of Get Flanked's Discord. It was just a friendly tournament game that was going on, and we were like, we'll give it a go, why not? And people were positive about it, so we just went from there.
Oh, fantastic. That's something that I kind of wanted to pick up on. I should have mentioned it with Jess, actually. But the actual transition of, Siege coming from mainly console and then coming onto PC, what was that like for the community? Was that quite a difficult time to sort of make that jump?
Really, the PC community has always been pretty big for Siege in terms of the PC share versus what they normally see with other games. I think the PC share is about 25% for Siege. There, don't quote me on that. That's probably about an 18-month-old figure, but there or thereabouts. And I think they usually expect about 15 to 20. So it was actually quite a high player base on the PC side. The transfer as an individual player coming across it's a big learning curve. Basically, it's a lot faster on PC than it is on console, and I think a lot of that comes down to the change of FOV that you can bring in. So having that wider field of view that you can't alter on console, that makes it feel a lot quicker. But at the same time, people are a lot more accurate as well. So you can be. On console, you can safely get into platinum ranks with a solo queue, and you don't have to be the best aim. Whereas on PC, you can play in silver and you're just getting headshot left, right, and center. It's lethal.
Sounds pretty savage indeed. It is weird kind of making that transition. I remember doing it, not on a particular game, obviously, because nobody really plays CSGO on a console. I remember seeing one of my mates' houses, a little the actual case for the game. I was just like, what on earth? Why would you do that? Why would you ever play Counter-Strike? Yeah, I know. I was just like, let's not go there. But it is kind of interesting to see that sort of that jump across from sort of console to the PC player base. But I think, before we get in too deep with this conversation, I think, Jacky, it's time for another one of your segments. One of your favourite games, I believe. And we played it last week. It was incredible. Do you want to give us a little brief idea of what the game is?
Are we going into the Jackbox breakdown, Freya?
We are.
Ooh. Right. Well, if you've never played it before, I'm sure either of you have been around at an esports after party or some kind of gathering of family where they've gone, do you want to play some Jackbox? And essentially, there's one game on Jackbox called Patently Stupid. Not Patiently Stupid, that's what I thought it was. But it's a very enjoyable game. Essentially, the concept is that we've all got to invent a product to solve an issue that we also come up with. So you get given prompts, and it's just a little bit of improv. It's pretty exciting. It's fun. It's good stuff. You should be on board with it, Ace. I feel like you've got the grey gears for it.
You've got me on the edge of my seat, Jacky. I love a bit of Jackbox.
Here we go.
I'm all about it. I love a bit of that. There's nothing better to start a family argument at Christmas than a bit of Jackbox.
Yeah.
Jackbox and Monopoly. They're both up there.
Yeah.
This was good though, because we played this two weeks ago. What inventions did we come up with? We had the Big Beardy book.
You had the Big Beardy book.
What did you have? You had something really good.
I had the beard body pillow.
Body pillow.
Yeah, because the problem was you don't want to sleep on your own anymore. So mine was a body pillow that was also like a beard. So obviously you could just kind of hug that and go to sleep.
Yeah, great stuff. Have you played any Jackbox, Hawka?
A little bit. I think I played a little bit, just like at a couple of esports events. I don't remember much of it.
We played together, Hawka.
Have we?
We were very, very drunk. We'd had Jello shots. Do you remember? But they came out wrong, so we were scooping them out of the bowl.
Yeah, I remember that they came out wrong. Yeah, that's the bit I remember.
Nobody ever remembers Jello shots. That's the point of them, Jackie.
It's also like that whole memory's shrouded because I was like, hang on, I know Hawka's played, but why? And then I was like, oh, the jelly.
The jelly. I think we've got the room in the chat.
Yeah, room is in the channel.
So
Alright, there we go. So
if you pop that into your browser,
jump on that on your preferred web browser. All brands are available, of course.
I think my most iconic Jackbox moment was we had a layover when we were going to CS season 6, I think. We had a layover in Chicago, and it was like a couple of hours. So we just decided to all 30 crew that were flying out, all make a massive ring on the floor of the lounge and play some Drawful. That was great. True esports moment.
Oh, absolutely living it.
Right, if everybody can tell me when they're in.
I am in. I've joined now.
I think I'm in.
Does it say please stand by?
It does, yeah.
And you're in.
Excellent.
I'm so excited right now.
Right, everybody's in.
Right.
This is going to be fab.
Here we go.
Ooh.
Hello, welcome to the seminar.
I feel like we can skip the intro. Do you guys understand that? Yeah. Let's get right into it. You know what?
You'll pick it up. You'll pick it up.
Yeah, I'll pick up on it.
Is this how you win, Jackie?
I did win last time.
Are you one of those
That's not the
people?
reason.
No, you'll learn it by playing. Oh, look, I've won again.
Stop ratting me out, Ace, please.
Rumbled.
So essentially, I think the first phase here that we're going into is where we have to come up with problems. So obviously, we're now coming up with issues, and then later on, we'll have to solve those issues with our inventions, rather.
Yeah, so keep in mind, somebody's got to solve. Actually, you could be really cheeky and give somebody a really awful prompt. Oh, God. Okay.
Okay.
Ooh.
Keeping it pretty basic for the prompts here, I think.
Well,
it's the products that we'll really get.
Freedom of reign. See where it takes you. Yeah, that grey matter flowing.
Oh, God.
No hurry, but that's half your time.
I think I was first to finish. Getting the hang of it already.
You're flying through it, Hawka.
Yeah. Alright, there we go.
God, I'm trying to. No, I'm the only one. I can't think of anything for this.
I've panicked.
I will say the last time I played Jackbox, I believe, was with Mitch. So take from that what you will, because that's an experience and a half. Hopefully, it doesn't get too bad here.
Oh my God, that's iconic. I love whoever's put this.
Right, I've got an interesting one.
Let's get a move on. Time's almost up.
I think the most tricky bit for me is the drawing. It's so tough.
There's not drawing, is there?
Yeah.
No.
I've been given no advance warning. I could have got my tablet out.
Oh my God.
I've been lampooned.
Oh, it's all been a ruse from start to finish.
Jackie's got his pen out right now already. He's got some
Yeah,
custom
I'm
pen.
plugged
Just
in.
oh,
I'm actually in VR at this point. You guys not at the seminar? All right, here we go.
God. Oh, you can actually choose different pens.
ooh, there's 2 different pens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
This just got complicated.
Oh no, I don't want to be using this. It's too thick.
Hmm.
Yeah, word comes out your mouth and you're like, why did you say that?
Oh no, now you've made me panic draw with highlighter. Oh.
We're halfway there.
I'm just not sure what I'm doing.
I'm not really sure either.
This is not going to end well. This is already going badly.
Oh, I don't know what I've... Oh, dear. That's not what I wanted to do.
Okay, let's wrap those drawings.
This is incredible.
This doesn't look anything like what I thought. Oh god.
It doesn't sound like this is going well.
No,
Sounds like there is panic
I did
across
not realise
the board.
the time ran out.
There's time.
Okay, yeah, there is time,
Oh.
and it doesn't show
I'm
you.
never going to sell this.
Snazzy tagline.
Something that makes people think, hey, I really
Actually, yeah,
need
that's the
that.
bit we didn't touch on, Jackie. Is the funding element?
Oh,
this
yeah.
invention. Yeah, that's actually how you win.
Yeah, you do have to secure funding. Oh, right. Title.
Oh god.
All right, I've got one. I'm quite happy with mine. I feel like for the prompt I was given, I've done all right.
We're halfway home.
Oh god.
I feel like it definitely could have gone worse.
I'm just rewriting my tagline. I'm really putting some work into the tagline. I feel like that's where I might win or lose it.
You can hear the little panic type in the background.
I've got to make up some ground somewhere. Right. Okay.
Great. Now, each of you will present your creation with our amazing presentation tool.
Okay, here we go.
I'm locked in.
I'm very excited.
This is it.
Feel
This
like-
is the best part.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be, Freya. You're just setting yourself up for disappointment.
Oh.
Oh, look at this.
Oh.
Oh,
Here we
look
go.
at that, look at this.
Simon in on the job.
Yeah,
the madman.
I love
Love
it.
it.
Stand clear
Excellent
and watch
stuff.
us work.
Okay, so have we got?
It looks
Oh
like
no,
you
wait.
have a problem.
So Tim's up first. So Tim has to pitch
Right.
his invention to
I
us.
think there we go. It's pitching. I think
Manner.
That is a problem.
it's a problem that everybody has in life.
Not just what
Wanting to safely stroke Jackie's beard. It's always, it's something we've all wanted to do. So I came up with the arm's length, I like to call this product. Because you do have to keep Jackie at an arm's length. I mean, the drawing's not the best. We've got Jackie with his beard. And then we've got what is a stick with a hand on the end of it.
Oh,
Excellent.
there you go.
Oh god. Okay. That's a tough act to follow. So my problem was my left eyebrow grows too fast. I think we can all attest to this. So I've got to come up with the clippy bros. A big clip for a big brow. But a big brow, not two big brows.
Just the one.
So my idea, this is going to require a lot of explaining. It's at the top. That's two fingers. They're going to clip down. So
All right. Yeah,
one
yeah.
of them is a big clip for the big brow, and then the other one is a small clip for the smaller brow. So you take two clips. I don't know what I'm saying. You can clip at the same time, but it won't take as much hair. And I've realised the width
But they
is
would
the
do
same.
the same job.
Well, yeah, one's meant to be skinny and one's meant to be a bit fat. That's an oversight. That's going to be. This is just a
Just
a
a
first.
prototype.
Yeah, it's a
Iron that out.
prototype, right? There's a few issues. We're going to iron them out. But I think this is going to be incredibly innovative. Less hair on the smaller one, right? Big brain. That's
I love it.
That's all. That's all you're getting.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's just slightly stubbier. Oh, all right. Here we go. So, of course, I currently dread the holidays because of socks. I absolutely despise the idea of anyone giving me socks for Christmas. It's just not good, is it? It's an awful conundrum to be left in. So I've come up with this. Essentially, what we do here is we use the sock block, and the sock block will deny any socks to enter your vicinity around the time of Christmas. You simply place the sock block onto the foot of choice, left or right, we don't discriminate, and then you can take a solid kick at the box that you suspect has a sock inside. side, and it should deal with it for you. Of course, don't get sock blocked, use sock block.
How do you know that it's a sock in there, though? Do you just have to use your intuition?
Really aggressively.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. I can smell it. I just hate socks that much.
Such a strong pitch.
All right, well, I am lost, and my problem is, as I get older, I need more help in my ranked games. Obviously, not a problem I'm having. I think this is more for some of the other guys here. But the title is the OAP League, the Only Aged People League. I'm going to be honest, the acronym could do with some work. We're still looking to improve that. And you're going to see in my drawing, it's just an old guy playing a game, to be honest.
Oh, he's one-handed, though.
He is one-handed. He's playing it one-handed. That's also true. He does have hair. The thing with this is, instead of just getting better at the game, just play against people who are even older than you are. Make your own league, and then you're good to go, right? Like, this is clearly the easiest, most simple solution to the problem. I can't remember what tagline I did. Play against old farts only in the OAP League. There you go. Beautiful.
Oh.
I love that. I see no flaws in that.
It's niche, but it could work.
I think there's a market for it, no?
We'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll see where the funding's going to go.
So we can give, we rank this, right? You give the highest amount to your favourite one, and then it gets lower subsequently, right? Or am I
yes. So you have, like, you divvy up the amount of money you want to give out based on which inventions you enjoy the most, ranking it obviously from 1 down to the 3rd one that will get the least amount.
Ooh, oh god, this is hard.
These pictures are very much ranging in quality, I'll be honest.
Oh, that was a hard decision. 3 solid inventions.
Yeah.
They're all so broad.
Honestly, this is exactly what it's like being on Dragon's Den. I have absolutely no doubt about that.
That's the next step. We take this, we find one that we all really love, and we take it.
We go global.
Yeah.
Real funding, actual investors.
Take it on Shark Tank. Literally just me, you, Mark Cuban in a room. Let's get it sorted.
I think your pitch should do it, Jackie.
I want a sock block in every home by 2021. Oh, he's done it.
Big money.
That's huge.
Oh no!
Makes perfect
He's actually
sense.
made it in.
If you can't win, play worse players.
Exactly.
Wait,
Oh,
what?
the Clippy Bros has done it.
I think the drawing let me down largely.
Honestly, yeah, the drawing was a big part of it.
Yeah.
It does
The
look like a
drawings
pitchfork.
really let me down
It's
there.
like you're trying to really give him a good jab.
It's you, Jackie, not give him a good job.
Wait, give me a good
Give
jab.
you a good job.
I'm sorry.
So now we
made that clear.
all solve the same one for this one.
Yeah.
Yes.
How often do people
final
come up with the
round.
same ideas for this?
Last week they were all similar-ish,
Same vein, but different. Yeah.
different enough. I think that's like an obvious one that you can go with, but then everybody sort of went, oh god.
It's
What's the
interesting.
prompt?
I would like to moonwalk like a professional.
Professional.
Ooh.
I'd love to moonwalk like a professional. Oh god.
Oh, all right.
The thing is, the timer starts going, and even if you haven't thought of anything, you've just got to make something up.
That's half your time.
I love that we've got the face cams now. The concentration is real.
You can see everyone really focusing.
I'm not. Oh, yeah. There's no way this is going to go well.
My scales are quite off between each
That's
thing.
fine.
I think that's just a theme of mine, isn't it? The scales just aren't right.
All right.
Okay, I'm I'm quite confident.
I'm relatively happy with my train of thought on that one.
I'm not happy whatsoever.
I feel like that's gone all right.
I feel stressed.
Oh god, we've got to do a tagline and a title. Oh god.
Okay. All right, easy. That's the only logical explanation for this one that I could have gone for.
We're halfway there.
The frantic typing, who is it?
Oh, that's good.
I think I've gone way too basic because I just panicked. Just could not think of anything creative.
Just had to get something in there.
It's solid though. At least you got something.
At least I drew some shoes.
Oh man. All right, here we go.
All right, this is your last chance to impress, so don't hold anything back.
Oh, all right, I'm up first.
Nice.
So, like everyone, I would love to moonwalk like a professional, and I've come up with a simple solution. As seen on TV, you can get yourself a micro moon. It comes in a simple packet for ages 4+, relatively easy to use. You bust it out, you throw it on the floor, and you can walk on your very own micro moon, allowing you to moonwalk like a professional. It's the micro moon. It now also comes with included dark side.
That is iconic. I love that.
I do like the tagline.
How big is the moon?
It's big enough for at least a foot and a half.
That convinced me.
Just big enough is the answer. That's a good answer.
Oh, that's been it difficult. Right, hang on. Instead of going with the auto host, I've decided to do it myself. So this is the 0 G's. This is more 0 G's. This is more of a trip than a product. This is a trip to the moon, and it is to moonwalk on the moon. What is more professional than MJ moonwalking on the moon? And now you can join him. That is the reality that we're talking about here. This is like serious level moonwalking. We've got some craters and the flag there. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Is he keeping bees on the moon?
No, it's not a Mars rover, is it? Because it's on the moon. But I don't know which Apollo craft landed on the moon.
I've also got a question about the scale of this. I'm not sure if that's the real moon compared to the size of the man. I'm not 100% sure.
He was a big man.
It's a giant MJ.
A massive.
It's actually a statue.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Amazing.
It's not Freya.
Oh god. Right. Okay. You know what's not amazing? This. Let's go. Again, the problem. I would love to learn how to moonwalk like a professional. So of course we've got moonwalk like MJ.
Okay.
The treadmill trainer for your moonwalking needs. So again, scale's a little bit off. That's just the theme of my drawings. It's fine. We'll go with it. Okay, little person slots in here to your little harness on your treadmill. But the difference is from a normal treadmill, you're facing backwards. So you got a little bit of that moonwalking action going on. It positions your body perfectly so that you have to moonwalk to stay upright. That's it.
I can dig it. I think there's the most thought that's been put into that one.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Probably the most achievable.
I think the floor might be going the wrong way, but we'll fix that bridge when we come to it. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so mine is I would love to moonwalk like a professional. We all know this is something we want to do. I just went with rocket shoes. Now there are two parts to this as we show the drawing. Now I'll be honest, the shoes are not going to actually point in different directions like that because that's not how you moonwalk. But I panicked and started drawing the shoes and then couldn't turn it round. So look, that will be fixed. They're also very stylish, Jackie, as I'm sure you can tell.
They look nice.
Beautifully done. Very skinny legs as well. Not my legs, I'll be honest. That we got a model in for that. But there's two parts to the rocket shoes. You can either use them to propel you to do the moonwalk, or they can just fly you to the moon themselves. And there you go. They propel you to the moon. You can do both ways of moonwalking. You can walk on the moon, and they make you do the moonwalk with the rocket shoes. So they're pretty much perfect. They do the best of both.
I feel like we maybe need to talk about some sort of collaboration. With the shoes and the trip.
You could do that in your funding bit, you know? Do a little cheeky deal, slide across the table.
Ooh, some dodgy business
vote for me, I'll
dealings
vote
under
for
the
you,
table.
you know?
God damn. All right,
God,
well,
this is hard.
these are our options.
I see positives with all of these. I see negatives with all of them. But I think it was a hard decision.
Not an easy one.
No.
The drawings are a little bit better this time around, I think.
We've all slightly improved.
I feel like we hit our stride with them, yeah.
Oh.
Solid, straight in there.
Nice.
Everyone loves a micro moon. Like micro pigs, they're just families can't get enough.
Until you realise it's actually not a micro moon; it's actually just the real moon.
Yeah, it
And
grows.
it's
Yeah,
big,
it just grows into a full-size moon. It's destroyed your living room. That's gone.
Now you live on the moon.
And
You
so
know.
does everyone
Welcome
on your
to your new
street.
home.
Unlimited supply of cheese, though.
Oh yes.
Way to go.
And buttons.
Look how close the scores are.
Oh my god.
Oh,
You'd
did
have
I
to
win?
deal with the.
Congrats!
I don't know how I
Hawka
won,
coming in
honestly.
He's
number
coming
Hey,
clutch.
Hawka.
I will take that. Thank you guys. I will make sure
Knock
to
in
make
there
the
at the
rocket
end.
shoes 100%. Beautiful.
Coming soon.
I want to see the
Watch out.
final leaderboard because it was close, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wonder if there is a leaderboard.
Don't know.
Well, no, you're just.
I think we
that's
could probably
it.
just skip it.
Yeah, you know what? I
Skip
just
that
win.
bit.
I,
Don't
you know,
worry.
He
it's
just won.
fine.
Yeah. He's taking it down. Well done, Hawka. The
Thank you,
brightest
thank you.
spark of all of us.
Well, keep your eye out on Hawka's Twitter because I'm sure that'll be coming soon, won't it? Your next venture, rocket shoes.
100%. 100%.
Thoroughly look forward to it. I was just gonna come back and I was actually like, what were we talking about before we went into that?
I got no clue.
Every
What did
time
we
it,
do
I'm
here?
just like, what are we talking about? Analysis. That's what we're talking about. And I think something we sort of started to talk about with you, Hawker, was sort of the content aspect of the sort of analyst role and the analysis you can kind of get from that. And Ace, that's something that you do as well. You do a lot of content creation on the side, as Jackie was telling me earlier. What sort of stuff do you particularly like to focus on within Siege?
Well, it started off, as I said, on YouTube, started a YouTube channel, and a lot of that was breaking the game down in a manageable way for beginners coming into it, because Siege has got such a steep learning curve for people coming in. So it started off with, really thorough breakdowns of maps and locations and understanding, where angles can be found with blowing out soft surfaces and that sort of thing, and breaking down operators and use of gadgets, real sort of, 101 style stuff. And then when I've moved more onto the casting side of things, more into the esports side of things, then a lot of the content that I put out on Twitter tends to focus around the competitive side of Siege, but again, trying to make it accessible and engaging for people who maybe haven't played to a high level or maybe haven't watched much sort of competitive level Siege, and just taking those players and breaking them down, explaining exactly why teams are doing things and why it works or why it doesn't work in some cases.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing as well. And it's really nice that you sort of picked up on the sort of beginner's aspects of coming into a new game. Because, Siege, in the grand scheme of things, it's a relatively young esports in its whole. And it's cool that you kind of have that focus on the newer viewers coming in and actually really explaining some of the fundamentals to them. Do you kind of see that content doing particularly well within the Siege scene?
There's always a lot of excitement, a lot of love for it, and I've had a lot of personal feedback on the fact I do cover the sort of simpler elements whilst I'm casting as well. I try to have a good mix for everybody. What I really want to do when I'm casting is I want to make people feel like they sat on the sofa with me, and it's a lot of enjoyment, a lot of excitement, but I'm there and I can answer questions, and whether that be somebody who understands the game at a high level or whether it be somebody who's never seen it before, I'm sort of trying to cast for everybody as much as I can and just give people a reason to stick around. And I think a lot of the players who maybe understand the game to a deeper level have been really understanding of that in Siege, actually. And they've been, a lot of the people sort of commenting, saying, you know, this is great that we're covering this. And you know, I don't mind almost switching off for a minute while you go over that really basic strategy, because I know that it's keeping people in the stream and keeping them interested and involved. And so, yeah, they've reacted. It's gone down really well. They've reacted really well to it.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Like keeping it sort of open enough, you know, to encourage new viewers in without making them sort of scared off and going, oh, you know what, this is too, you know, a bit too intense, because there can be, as with Counter-Strike, there's so many sort of deeper strategies and deeper parts of the game, but you really need to understand, as you said, sort of the fundamentals. I think I spoke to, I think it was Moses. It was either Anders or Moses. And they were talking about that sort of balance within commentary. And they were saying, you know, you don't want to go too heavy in. You know, this is what we do pretty much 24/7. And you don't want to presume that the viewers know the exact same amount that you do. You know, this is your job. This is your life. They might not know to the exact same extent, you know, these strategies or the sort of quirks or gimmicks of a team. Is that something that you yourself, Hawka, when you're sort of doing commentary, is that something that you try to make sure you're including as well?
Yeah, it's difficult because a lot of the times when you're casting so much, especially, it almost gets to the point where you feel like you're saying the same thing over and over again if you try and always cater to the casual fans. But you still need to do it to some extent. You still need to make sure you let them know exactly what's going on, especially for some of the games where there is, again, deeper stuff going on, but there's basic things that still need to be understood. So even just, you know, letting people know why they're buying in this round or why they're not buying in this round, it's something that I think sometimes does almost go overlooked a bit in CS. We don't really talk about it much, but that's just because it feels like you get to the point where, you know, I'm casting every day and I'm just saying, oh, and they're buying this round because of this. But you have to remember there's always new people tuning in. So it is hard to strike that balance. I think in general, I try to keep the basic stuff as quick and simple as possible. And then if I have anything more in depth to say, maybe there's a bit more time to talk about it after a long round. Maybe there's a slow start to the round. That's where you can go a bit deeper. But I think the most important thing is, yeah, just trying to always remember that there are going to be new people watching. And it's important to make sure, even if you're making a more in-depth point, try and bring them along for the ride as much as you can and try and kind of water it down a little bit without losing your point in the midst of it all.
Yeah, I actually think that's a really important point, you know, about the ebb and flow of a game. And I think particularly with Rainbow Six, as we were talking about a little bit with Jess earlier, you know, you've got the prep phase, which is, you know, a lot doesn't really exist in Counter-Strike. You know, that's just the buy phase, which is really, really short. Do you feel like, because, you know, the rounds are quite a lot longer and there is more of a wave in terms of, you know, there's a peak of action, but then there's a bit of a trough where it's sort of quite quiet and not too much actual intense actions going on? Of course, there's a lot of stuff that you can be commenting on. Do you feel like there's a bit more of an interchange of analysis and commentary within Siege?
Yeah, I think there is. You've got, like you say, Siege is quite explosive in that you can sometimes maybe from the end of a round to, you know, I won't say the beginning of the action phase, but the beginning of the action really sort of kicking off, that explosive moment where the kills start coming in. That can really vary. It can be a minute if you have a team that just rush in on the next round within the first 15-20 seconds, or you could have 2.5-3 minutes until it's right towards the end of the next round. So sometimes you can have an awful lot of time to fill, sometimes it's very little and you've just got to cut your point off and sort of go with it. But yeah, the ebb and flow, again, just I think there's a balance to be found of being informational, explaining, bringing the analysis, but also keeping it sort of engaging and fun and sort of keeping the tempo and the energy up sometimes as well.
Yeah, is that something that you found, Jacky, obviously, you know, going from Counter-Strike and a lot of other titles, is that something that you've quite enjoyed about Siege, the sort of diversity in the sort of casting style that you can deploy?
Oh, definitely, because it is like, if you think of it as basically a more stretched out CS round, that's kind of the way it works. And obviously CS is probably the best game in terms of esports commentary, in the sense that it's all laid out in front of you as a very clear way of how this game's going to work, right? You know, you've got that buy, you know, that downtime where you, with the buy coming in, then you've got the actual default where, you know, first couple of minutes, nothing much is going to happen, then you'll get into the execute. It's all very thorough in the way it works. You kind of know when you can get away with being yourself, having your personality and just joking around, when you need to kind of actually focus on what's happening inside the round, when you might notice the execute. It's like that in Siege as well, where obviously a lot of the downtime, especially where the difference to Siege that I'd say to CS is the sense of how many times you might get a rehost or a lobby being remade, right? Where that just kind of doesn't happen in CS much anymore. It's very rare we get like a server go down or we have to have like a half an hour pause anymore. Not since the era of the EDOS has gone away, right? But in Siege, that's a lot more common still, where servers will go down. So me and Ace, we started busting out the riddles whenever we go for rehosts. We started going through, the story of the Garfield phones that kept washing up on the beaches in France for 30 years. We've covered everything at this point.
We've got big animal facts, we've got everything.
Can you share a riddle with us, Jackie? I'd love one. Off the top of your head.
Oh, off the top of my head, right now. Oh.
Or maybe have a moment to think about it.
Let me have a think. I burnt through all my actual reserve good riddles. I've got a couple. Hang on. I've got a couple on a Google Doc. Yeah, we've had so many. We had like 13 rehosts or something last Saturday. It blew me out.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was a tough day on Saturday.
It was. Here's another classic. This is one that I've done on the show before previously with Ace. Are you ready, Freya?
Okay, I've got it.
What runs around the whole garden without moving?
A fence.
Yes. Well done.
Wow.
Big
that was
brain.
quick.
You'd fit in perfectly on that, Tom.
Pop over. We
You
got
know what?
space.
Yeah. I'll pop over.
What do you know about rising damp, Freya?
Oh god.
That's another popular topic.
Another popular topic that we cover an awful lot of.
Iconic. I love
A lot
that.
of renovation work goes
Yeah.
on.
To be
DIY
fair,
animals. That sort of thing.
Jackie, you got the shed. You've been renovating
Yeah.
the shed. I feel like we've seen the progress as well on this show a little bit.
Ace, do you know
Fantastic.
that I live in a shed?
The shed's been
Have you
mentioned.
have you just assumed that this is just a
we have
backdrop?
had quite a bit of shed talk.
Yeah. Well, it's
on
when you
the
said shed
show.
collapse, and I was like, well, hang on. The shed's fine. Like, don't worry. We haven't had a cave in. But yeah, at this point, I do operate entirely out of the casting shed, Shed LAN specifically.
It's amazing. It's a dedicated space. That is the dream. I'm currently, living the proper esports dream of the setup in your bedroom. That's it. My bed is literally just there. I move about this far.
Honestly, it's become a bit of an alter ego at this point. I remember there was the Fnatic party when I was at IEM Katowice last year, and we went into the after party, and some guy just ran over to me and just went, "Shed man!" And I was there like, "Yeah, that's me."
Iconic. I love that. Well, I feel like we always have these diversions towards the end of the show. But back on topic, Hawka, there's one more thing I wanted to ask you before we go into our final segment of the day. And it was sort of we sort of alluded to it a little bit earlier of sort of you being part of commentary duo and then moving over into the sort of analysis role a little bit more on camera. Was there anything that you did in particular to kind of prep for that role differently than how you would normally do for casting? Because I imagine, as you were saying, there's a lot more freedom when you're casting to sort of just say what's on your mind and what you're thinking right in that moment. Do you feel maybe before you did your first show, were there any sort of different approaches you were taking to that role in particular?
Yeah, I think for analysis, I definitely put a lot of time, more time even, into looking up stats and stuff like that, because I wanted to see if I could incorporate that into the desk at all. I think once I actually started doing the analysis, though, I realized more of the time, it is more about making sure you keep the viewer entertained while making your point. So as much as it's nice to have stats, and maybe I can throw them in every now and then, the most important thing is actually keeping the viewer engaged. Because if you just go on and ramble on for a minute or two making your point, it's really hard for them to actually follow on sometimes. It's really difficult to keep the viewer's retention in that period. So for me, it was definitely doing a lot of research in case there was like a really long segment, and then I could be like, oh, well, this guy has the best pistol stats in the tournament. Then I can bring that sort of thing up if we kind of need it. But I was mainly, when I was actually on the desk, focused on trying to keep it quite nice and lighthearted, and then kind of tying that into the points.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting in terms of like the filler content. Not necessarily that it's just there for, to fill just in case, there is a technical issue or whatever. But I feel like it is really different just in terms of when I've had to fill on a desk with analysts and then sort of looking at commentators when they're having to fill. I feel like it's a lot more relaxed when you're just sort of in a server and you can just, you can chat about almost anything. Whereas if you were doing that on a desk, it just wouldn't really work.
Start game, please. Start game.
Stop talking. Caster, start game. The classics. We love it. And in terms of your kind of content creation as well, on your own YouTube channel, Hawka, is there anybody that you because I feel like we're really, really lucky within the Counter-Strike scene. I don't know so much about the Rainbow Six scene, that we have so many people creating so much content so frequently that there's just a gold mine of stuff to go through. Was there anybody that you particularly looked up to, that you were kind of inspired by their work, that sort of made you go, I really want to start creating this? Or was it basically just ideas from your mind where you're like, this is interesting, I should do this?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time for me, it was just, oh, this is something that's interesting. I want to make a video on this. Just a lot of it was more, I think, stuff that I spotted that I thought was cool. I think in terms of I guess, inspirations, though, obviously Thorin for CS content is just incredible. Getting to go on his podcast as well, I think, was a really big moment for me, because that really starts to make you feel more legitimized and really starts to, I think, help build that confidence that clearly I'm doing something right if I'm going on counterpoints with him. And then there's a bunch of other smaller guys that do great stuff. I know Maui Snake recently did a really good video just looking at a demo of Som's POV. And because he's got more of a background as a semi-pro player, he's much more, I think, better at kind of looking at the individual mechanics, right? And saying, exactly, in every round, this was a mistake, this was well played, this is why he did this. So there's just so much in CS that I think is good stuff, and a lot of it does fly under the radar sometimes, I think, which is a bit of a shame. But I think in this off-season especially, there's been a bit more time for the content. I'm seeing it more pop up on the Reddit, so it's nice to see.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. Like, just in terms of, when you were saying when you went on with Thorin onto counterpoints, like, it's cool that is like something that makes you feel like legitimized within the community. Before then, you obviously were, but it is something. I don't want to get too deep here, but I feel like imposter syndrome can kind of be something that comes up, and you do kind of feel like, oh, you've been put into these events, but it's just like, am I meant to be at this event? Like, am I meant to be doing something at this level? Because it is quite hard to sort of be and enter into a scene and then just go, yeah, this is where I'm meant to be, like, have the confidence to do that. And obviously nobody else is thinking it. Like, I've never thought that about you, anybody here. But it is cool to have like a figure like Duncan who really takes the time to sort of get to know a lot of the people within the scene and gives people like a platform to sort of voice their opinions on.
Yeah, it's been great. I think Thorin's just been really, really helpful in general. I think he's someone who also really takes note of if you're going to be putting a lot of time into what you're doing. I think that's part of the reason why he reached out to me, was because he saw I was doing the content and the casting stuff. So he saw that I had kind of a work ethic and that I really wanted to go far in this. And I think the other thing with just esports in general, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's been a real just confidence booster for me in general. Just feeling like I'm getting so successful at something. I've noticed over time just confidence going up and up, and it's been awesome. Especially because everyone in esports is just so lovely when you meet them. Like you meet all the talent that you look up to, and you're like, wow, you're just a really nice guy. This is so cool.
Yeah, it's really nice when you... I heard a phrase ages ago, never meet your heroes, but it's just not true. Like, especially in esports, when you meet people, they are just really welcoming and really friendly. I think we're sort of really lucky. I love we've ended on this little heartfelt discussion as well. This is awesome. I love it. But we're not ending just yet. We have one more challenge for you guys, because obviously Passionately Stupid wasn't enough to test you. We've got one of my favourite segments, which is the casting switcheroo. So if you're not familiar with this concept, we're basically taking two of our wonderful casters and we're switching the games that they cast. So Hawka, you're going to be taking a round of Rainbow Six and trying to cast over it. And Ace, you've got some Counter-Strike coming your way. That is the exact reaction we get every week, isn't it, Jackie?
This is bad news. That's all I can say. Like I'll preface this. I've never played Counter-Strike.
Don't disappoint me.
Same preface here. I've never played Rainbow Six. Have to throw that in there.
I love it. I love it so much. We had I think we had a Dota and League of Legends swap in the first episode we did, and that was actually really funny because a very similar-ish game. Well, not similar, but a lot of people who haven't played it sort of think that's sort of a similar thing. And I feel like it's the same thing with Rainbow Six and Counter-Strike. A lot of people go, it's basically the same thing. So this is going to be really cool. I don't know who we've got up first. I'm just waiting for the producer to let me know which clip we've got. Unless one of you... Okay, we've got CS. I was going to offer for somebody to go first, and it's normally people going, no, I don't want to go first. But we've got Counter-Strike, so Ace, I'm sorry. You've got to step up
thrown in
to the
This
plate.
could be terrible.
Let's take a look.
I'm going to have to channel my inner Jackie.
Go on.
So we've got a guy peeking around with pistol, takes a great headshot. He's moving down. I'm pretty sure you can't see the silhouettes on CS, so we're going to go with that because that'd be pointless. He gets a second, does he? No! No, he dips away. He's looking for the long-range angle. There's no ADS in here, which is really, really strange to me. Surely that would improve things, but no, damage is done. Third kill for him. Gets onto the diffuser. The crowd goes wild. That must have been a huge play. It's Virtus Pro finishing things off.
I love the hype there. That was awesome.
Lovely.
Hawka out of 10. Give him a rating.
It's a good 7. You know, it's a good 7. I think if you had the crowd there, you might have got even more hypes. You know, that might have been the missing element.
Well, I think we've got one for you, Hawka. We've got a Rainbow Six moment. I'm not sure whether you have any context for this, but we're going to bring it up. We didn't give any context for you, Ace. So...
You're going in blind.
Yeah, you're going in blind. I'm sorry, Hawka. Let's get this clip off. I'm very excited to see which one they've chosen.
We're digging through. Producer Simon's on the case.
He's on it.
I'm expecting shooting through walls. I'm expecting all sorts of craziness.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. We've got Cloud9 against Giants. It's round number 8. Giants in the lead right now. I don't know if Giants are any good, but clearly they're doing all right because they're winging. We're going down the spiral staircase. Who is this? It's Speak Easy? Is that his name? Wow, okay. Speak Easy round the corner. Ooh, no X-ray on. That nearly caught me off guard. And I still don't really know what's happening, but it's a 3v4. Make that a 2v3. Kills going all over the place. I'm completely confused. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing, but the bomb has been planted. It's a 2v2, and we're getting an overview, something I never see in Counter-Strike. The bomb has been planted. Where are the CTs coming from, though? Oh, they found the activated diffuser. That means something. That sounds good for them. Still no kills coming down because this man is waiting. It's Lunar Giants in the back lines. And wait, what is happening? Oh, Giants, he gets them both. That's beautifully done. Was he outside the map there? I don't really know, but I think he might have been.
That was good, mate.
Yeah, that was solid.
Solid 9 out of 10 there.
Just talk about I don't know what I'm doing the whole time, and then everyone can,
But you say it with confidence. That's the thing.
That's the key.
I'm confident that I don't know what I'm doing.
So I'm going along with it. I'm like, he's solid. Well, you know what? I think that's the perfect way to round off the show today. Thank you both so much for taking the time to join us. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to hear a little bit more about your lives in esports. I just want to take a moment. Hawka, do you have anything to sort of shout out that's coming up for you? Maybe a little allusions to anything?
I think there's a couple of events coming up which can't be announced yet. And other than that, just check out my Twitter, my YouTube. I should be putting up content. Yeah, I'm excited for the future. Excited to get back into CS. Once this player breaks over, it should be good fun.
Yes, I'm very excited indeed. And what about you, Ace? Anything coming up for you?
Yeah, Siege is really busy at the minute. We've got some online majors coming up throughout August. That's going to keep everybody very, very busy. One for each region, one per week. So that is August taken up, and then straight back. We've got the end of LATAM to finish off yet. So more fun with me and Jackie. And then hopefully we'll be coming back in September with even more. You're going to have to get them riddles ready, Jackie.
Oh, mate, don't worry. I'll get some done in the downtime. I've got a day off.
He's got a bank of riddles waiting for the broadcast. Well, again, thank you so much, gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you join us. And we'll see you same time next week here.